We'll discuss the missed item, which is unfunded at this point. If you believe it should be funded, then you could flag it. And then we'll go sequentially through the flagged items here, and some of them we may be able to complete this afternoon, some of them we may require more information, and we'll finish off the balance of them tomorrow. So Alderman Wong did ask a question earlier about balances of grants. At the end of 2014, we have $2.1 million left in capital tax. When I go through these balances, we also have to realize this is for the 3-year period, and as emerging issues arise, these could be sources of funding for those issues. So we have $2.1 million in capital tax. The AMIP program, as I said, is ended. We've used the carry forward. There is nothing more. The MSI has $2.8 million. The federal gas tax has $700,000. And then there's reserve amounts as well. So to discuss, so that's one source that could be used, but as I mentioned, it could be used over the 3-year period as well. It doesn't have to be used all up in this year.
Just as a reminder, okay, thanks.
I'll give you a preview of the operational plan. Going into 2012, we were faced with 2 challenges. One was the loss of the county fire protection, as well as the Aquaterra corporate services. Both, they totaled about $4.2 million. If we were to do a tax adjustment to recover fully those funds, it would be equal to 4.22%. 4.22?
If we were to do that, but I think
if
we had
we were
a better
to do
plan.
that. The second issue is the multiplex. It started later in the year and it was budgeted for only a small piece of it in 2011. Once you annualize the multiplex and discount the reduction in the leisure center, you also come up with a similar amount, $4.2 million, which is 4.22% if you raise taxes. So there, going into 12, we have an issue of 8.44% right off the bat. So we, of course, we got inflation there, but I can tell you staff did a great job, because the initial results of what we have is for 2012, the tax increase is 8.55%. The second year is 0.50%. And the third year is 0.80%. So the last 2 years are less than 1%. So what we did then is we used a few methods to try and modify it to spread it out a bit. And of course, as you spread it forward, the totals add up to more because the initial increases and the increases to the base are not there. So where we're starting next week is 3.65% in 12, 4.35% in 13, 3.6% in 14. And for information, 1% is equivalent to about $800,000.
Okay, thanks very much, Ken. I see Councillor Rice has a question. But so Ken, you gave us a couple of different percentages there. So the one that basically, in answer to the question, where were we when we started off today before Council chose to make any changes? The answer to that is the 3.65 in 2012, 4.35 in 13, and 3.6 in 14.
That's correct. That's where we're starting.
Sorry, Ken, do you want to confirm my numbers there?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
There were some, just to...
Okay, hold on just a second. Go
Just
ahead,
to
Ken.
let you know, one of the planning principles that we built in was that community groups that we fund would be held at 2011 funding for the 3-year period, assuming they were funded in 2011. Any new community groups are not funded initially. So this is also reflected here. So if you want to increase a community group, this goes up as well.
Okay. Okay, so just again for clarity, so the numbers that the budget that administration, the draft budget, I guess if you wanted to say it that way, before council made any changes or before there was any increase to funding for community groups beyond what they received in 2012 or any new funding to community groups that weren't funded in 2012 would have been 3.65 in 2012, 4.35 in 2013, and 3.6 in 2014. Okay, so that's basically our starting point where we're from. Okay? Thanks, Ken.
So I'll get...
Oh, sorry, Councillor Rice. excuse me.
I assume when you moved on past 12 into 13 and 14, you used some rate of inflation, sort of a COLA increase. So did you just stick with 2.3 or?
Well, we used various rates for various components. The wage rates, all the collective agreements and out of scope. Human Resources came up with estimates of what's going on in the Alberta marketplace. For utilities, we made some estimates of where we saw energy prices going, and then we used some more general inflationary factors. So it was a mixed bag of rates that we used, and we just didn't apply one rate across the board.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gustafson?
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Mr. Anderson, in your opening statement this morning, you mentioned that the economy is getting better in our region, in our neighborhood, in our city. And you know, that's, everybody around town talks about it, and everybody's really optimistic. So is there any measures, or is there any proof of that, any facts, solid facts that, you know, the economy is getting better in your opinion?
Well, most of the evidence is anecdotal. I mean, we believe we're seeing more evidence of building, more activity within the city. For example, hotel rooms are getting busier. So we have no definitive numeric information. It's more anecdotal.
Thank you, that helped.
Okay. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Ken, what's going to be the inflation they predict over the next 3 years? Around 1.5%?
We'll actually have a slide for next week in the economic forecast that I can talk to it about then.
Okay. Any further questions at this point? Councillor Radmer?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. So, Ken, in terms of my question, how does that increase in the capital impact the operational budget? Like if we choose to add $1 million, let's say we want to add a $1 million capital project. So our choices are we can use some of the remaining balances of capital tax, MSI and federal gas tax, or borrow, and that would have a debt servicing cost that goes to the operational. Are those kind of the choices?
Yes, you have probably three choices. One is to borrow, and for each $1 million over a 20-year period, the debt servicing is about $75,000. The capital tax, yes, you could use these balances that I've mentioned here, capital tax, MSI, federal gas tax, realizing that those are probably the numbers we have for 3 years. They may adjust when the provincial budget comes out. And the third option is to increase the taxes in the operating side and push more over and label it as capital tax. And for each $800,000, it would be a 1% increase.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Any further questions for Ken to provide us a little context before we get into the flagged items? No, looks like none, so Ken?
So I'll get Frank to go over the missed item, which is currently unfunded, and then you can decide whether you wish to fund it or not, or flag it or not.
Okay, Frank?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. First of all, my apologies for that. I own that. That should have come in before. The project involves a connective link between the Brochu subdivision on the west end of the city and the new Westgate subdivision, where we're currently experiencing some development with the new truck stop there. So that plan all along was to have some connectivity between the two subdivisions, and there's an opportunity to do a little bit of work at the intersection as well. The project value is about $144,000.
Okay, thanks very much, Frank. I wonder maybe if we could just flag that so we can discuss it in context with all the other road projects. I think that'd be appropriate. So I'll do that one right on the outset. We'll just flag that and refer it there together. Okay. So Ken, are you going to lead the discussion on the flagged items, or are we going to go through by service area? How are we going to handle that?
We're going to go through by service area, and there's an overhead here that we'll just go down the list. And the first ones are in intergovernmental services.
Okay, so in terms of the way that we're going to approach this, then I think we need to have maybe the council member that's name is there discuss why they wanted to have it flagged, whether it was for further information or if they have a position on it, and then administration will be able to either give us some more details if we needed that, and we can have discussion and debate. In any of these items, at some point, we need to have a motion to either fund it or not fund it. We need to have a motion that provides some action. in some cases, administration may look for additional direction from council on how we're choosing to fund it. And so that can get a little bit tricky when council members start picking the best method of funding something. So I'll just ask administration, maybe give that a little bit of thought, how they'd like to do it. But ultimately for council, if we're going on projects and it's something that we do or don't want to see in, somebody has to make a motion to say that. I move that this project be unfunded. I move that this project be funded. And perhaps we could look to administration to give us recommendations on appropriate funding source. So I just would propose that as kind of a process for us. Okay? Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm just wondering to Ken if that list could be emailed to us, and that way we can have it on our screens in front of us instead of having to. You have copies? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll just pass these around. So council members are getting the list of flagged items, and the first one on the list was from Councillor Wong, and was internet voting. In 2013, and that item was unfunded. Councillor Wong?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Given. I believe that internet voting is something that we need to start looking at for future elections. I know that a few municipalities across Canada have started some pilot projects, and I believe that Grand Prairie would be one of the prime candidates for something like that. I don't know that I necessarily want to see us put any funding in there, but I want to make sure that there's a mechanism where we're going to be seeking provincial grants, provincial or federal grants, and pending the outcome of that, we could look at some kind of funding source in reviews coming up in the future. So I just want to make sure that there is a mechanism for that in place.
Okay, and so maybe it'd be appropriate to have a response from administration if there's a way to do that. Is the project currently reflected in our budget documents, because it is relatively new from yesterday? So our capital project list doesn't actually even reflect it one way or another. So Ken, do you have any recommendations for us?
Well, if you decided to fund it off, it'll go in the plan. It's just that the plan had already been developed at that point.
Okay. Councillor Wong?
I do have one other thing. I know that some of the first steps for this project require that the City of Grand Prairie change the way it operates its elections. And some of those changes actually would be beneficial to our current process. A couple of things that I'm thinking of has to do with making sure that you have a mechanism in place to record eligible voters. I know that we do it through statutory declaration right now, but we don't require ID for that, and we also don't develop a voters list. So perhaps in the future we could look at least phasing that part in, just to ensure that our security in our election is up to a decent standard. And then that way, when we decide to flip over to an internet voting system, we aren't impacted by a $500,000 cost right away.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wong. So we'll have a brief opportunity for discussion, and then we won't let that go on too long, because somebody will need to make a motion. If I could, I don't see anybody else in the queue. I'd like to come in on this one. I think that this is a project that we need to know whether we're going to have partners in, and particularly the provincial government. So I think it's important that it's reflected in our plan. I believe that the city will have to have some funding in the pie, and so I wonder if maybe it'd be appropriate for us to be putting in a funded portion of the project, and then that way we'd be able to approach the province and say, you know, we believe that we need X amount to make this go, and if we didn't receive that from the province, then that project could come out. If we did receive support from the province, then we would have funding in place to be able to do the project. So that might be a way to think about it. Councillor Rice?
Isn't that why Ken identified the 2.1 million and the 2.8 million and that are left in those other accounts for in case something comes up? And so if that came up, we would be able to fund it. But I guess I feel that we go after the provincial government for them to do it as a pilot, totally paying first.
Okay. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Another question, I like what Councillor Rice said. This would only be used in advanced voting as well? Did I read that correctly? Advanced voting, okay.
Yep. Okay, so any further discussion or motions coming out of this? Any further discussion or motions on including this? Sorry, Councillor. Any further discussion or motions coming out of this to include it in the budget, or at least reflect it in the budget documents, even as unfunded? Going once? Okay, so even though, so the budget document that council has in front of them doesn't reflect this project at all. So my question is, if we want to have it on our list of things that we may do, dependent on other funding, we would need to make a motion to include it in the city's budget as unfunded. That would mean it'd have no impact at this time on the property tax increase. Councillor Radburn?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I think we should get it in the, in our 3-year budget at some point. I would ask some advice in terms of, we split it up in 212 and 213, but it would be undetermined. We'd put 250 in 212, 250 in 213, and under undetermined.
Okay, so.
Which means it gets in the books, but we're not funding it at this time.
Okay, so Councillor Radburn, you're making that as a motion?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so Councillor Radburn's made a motion to include internet voting in the budget as an unfunded item with 200,000 in 12 and 200,000 in.
250 and 250. 250 and 250.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, 250 and 250. So in 2 separate years. Okay. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Okay. There's one flagged item. Okay, so we'll move on from there. The next was the car share program, unfunded. I was the one that had that flagged. And just to speak to it, I think that this is again a pilot project amount. It would be something that I think could have a good potential benefit for the city to be a leader in this area, to reduce our parking congestion at City Hall and improve our environmental efficiency. So that's the reason I wanted to ask it for its consideration in front of council, but I'd leave it to council. Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. I'll move we add this to the budget.
Okay, so
Fund this.
funded. Okay, and Councillor Gustafson, do you have a year? Sorry, I guess we didn't say that at the outset. We should be specific when we're making motions, funded or unfunded, and we do have latitude in terms of years when we'd want to add it.
Sorry, where is it in the book?
Not in, because the referred items, not
Oh,
included
okay.
in the budget.
So again, like the internet voting, this wasn't in our budget books. It was a referral from committee relatively recently.
Let's add it to 2012.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gustafson. So we have a motion to fund the car share pilot program in 2012. Okay, Councillor Rice.
And I apologize in that I was a few minutes late today, and you may have discussed it before I got here. What would the $16,000 be spent on?
Okay, so a question of what that would be spent on, and maybe that's appropriate for our intergovernmental services manager. Jeanette?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The funding would be in the budget to purchase a fuel-efficient vehicle, and then that vehicle would be housed at City Hall and booked out to other employees or council members to use in the course of their daily business.
So it'd be an alternative to, the intent, Councillor Rice, is to provide an alternative for people to bring their own private vehicles to City Hall. They could either walk, take transit, and then if their job required them to go outside of City Hall for meetings or events, they'd be able to use this car share. It's similar to Development Services, which has a vehicle housed at the Public Works Building.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Wong?
Yes, I was just wondering what the estimated annual operational cost of this vehicle would be.
Jeanette?
Mr. Mayor, the administrative costs under fleet, I believe, would be $300 a month. And that that's a referral to the operating budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, then we'll put it to a vote. And one more. Thank you. And that motion carries. Okay, 2. Councillor O'Toole, the Philip J. Curry Dinosaur Museum. Wow, they've got the title changed already even. It's fast. Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Yes, this is an important year, I feel, coming up in the building fund. Last year, we allotted $500,000, and that was going to be over 1.5 million, over a 3-year period. $500,000 this current year, 500,000 next year, and 500 the following year in 2013. I'd like to see this put into the budget somewhere along the line. I don't know how the money man over there, Ken, can find this, but we did somewhat make a promise to the county and the Philip J. Dinosaur Museum group of people, and I would like to see this somehow put through the budget.
Okay, thanks, Councillor O'Toole. So was there a question in there for administration, or were you making a motion or just opening discussion?
Well, I'd like to open up discussion, but I would also wonder if, I know the county has been approaching the federal government, and I know that the communities in the Peace Country, and I mean right from BC all the way up north and south, have all shown interest in supporting this. They feel it would be a great economic boost to this area, and I would really like to see this continue somehow. And I'm not sure how we can get the money, but I would definitely like to see how, some options. So, Mr. Ken, if you could give us some options, if that was possible.
Okay. Well, I think you've opened up discussion here, and so I see some other council members that wanted to speak to the
Okay,
issue.
thank
So,
you.
Councillor Wong?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I think that this previous council had made a commitment to offering some funding for this project, so I would be in support of adding an amount to the budget. I'd like to see it spread out to the next 3 years, just to lessen the impact, because this is capital tax dollars we're talking about, and because there is a little bit of unknown in terms of whether or not they're going to get the rest of their funding. I was going to ask Mr. Anderson or someone else whether or not we're allowed to put conditions on our funding that, because we know it's capital funding, so if the building doesn't go forward, that we could put a string on it and pull it back.
Okay, so there's a specific question. Mr. Anderson?
Well, we certainly could put conditions on it to develop an agreement with them, and it would specify what it was to be used for, and if that particular project did not go ahead, what the consequences were.
Okay. See Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. I won't be supporting this. I didn't support it when we voted on the first $500,000 installment. At this time, we have far too many items that are very important and they're unfunded, and they do affect directly our citizens of Grand Prairie. As we had heard before, 1% a tax increase is about $800,000. So this takes a big crack at that $800,000. So I'm a bit of a doubting Thomas on whether this is going to fly. I didn't like the location to start off with. We have a nice one here, but that's another story. I would like some accounting on where all the money has gone. Like our first $500,000. Like, is there actual $500,000 left there? Is there administration being ate up, or I just feel uncomfortable about sending another jurisdiction $500,000. I won't be supporting it.
Well, and just to be clear, at this point, we do have some discussion. Fair enough for everybody to sort of state their position on that, but we're not voting on anything because nobody's made a motion. So I want to be clear on that. So I have Councillor McLean and Councillor Monroe. And so if you can, in your discussion, say sort of where you stand, where you feel, and it'll give probably the rest of council a sense of whether they'd like to try a motion or not. Okay, Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I supported this last time, but with the money undetermined and unfunded, I like what Councillor Wong said, but I think I'll be going away with Councillor Croak, and I think we got to watch our bottom dollar now.
Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I think that when this museum does come online, I think it's going to have a huge economic impact on not just Grand Prairie, but the entire area. However, I do appreciate Councillor Wong's statements about having some type of strings attached, and I would be in support of this only if there were certain conditions. And example of that might be that once they've secured, say, $10 million in funding through the province or the federal government, we give them $500,000, and then maybe upon completion or close to completion, we give them the remaining $500,000. But I think we need some type of assurance that this project will be completed and that we're not just throwing our money away. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I see Councillor Wong.
Yes, Mayor Given, I would like to try a motion here.
Sure, please.
I'd like to move that we include funding in the budget for.
Oh, somebody hit
Yeah.
their panel and
I'm back
messed
on.
with the queue.
Okay.
Councillor Wong?
That we provide funding to the Philip J. Curry Dinosaur Museum for $333,333 for each of the years 2012 and 13, and $333,334 in 2014, with conditions on that money. So administration can determine what those conditions are and present it back to council. In speaking to that, I believe that the economic impact on city businesses is going to be fantastic, as well as I definitely would support us fulfilling a commitment that we made several years ago. And I'd hate for the city of Grand Prairie to be the one partner that pulled out on this regional project and really put it in jeopardy. So I believe that in terms of regional cooperation and a real regional initiative that's going to help everyone, that we need to continue to support this initiative.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. So let's just clarify that motion so everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. It was essentially splitting $1 million over 3 years, is that correct?
That's
so
right.
12, 13, and 14?
That's right.
Okay, and so that's where the 3, and then the final year you added that $1 extra.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. So it could end up being a full $1 million,
Okay.
with conditions on that money that if the project for some reason didn't go, that we could get that money back.
Okay. Okay. So for Jeanette, are you comfortable that you've got the motion? Okay. So discussion or debate on Councillor Wong's motion. Councillor Gustafson?
Thank you. To administration, approximately how long would it take to make up some conditions? Could we have it done before this budget session, today or tomorrow?
At this point, I think we're talking about whether we're putting money into our budget document or not. The details of the conditions, I mean, obviously, just because it makes it into our budget document, doesn't mean we release the money. We're not writing checks this week, right? So administration knows that council does or doesn't support having funds available. Administration, I think, has heard and would, by voting on this, when council votes on this motion, that we want to see some conditions on releasing those funds, depending on the project going forward. So
We'll have a chance to look at those conditions and negotiate those conditions before we release the money?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion or debate? I see Councillor O'Toole, now that we've got a motion here.
Yeah, just a clarification, the money that is being used for operating the staff at this present time is being funded completely by the county. And the money that has been given for the building of the museum is being completely put aside as capital, and that money has not been touched. So just let everybody know that.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Thanks, Mayor Given. Regardless if it's $500,000 or 333 or 310 or whatever it is, I'm going to have a hard time explaining to Martha and Henry Citizen that this is going to be real good for them when their taxes go up 1%. So I cannot support it. I do believe there will be maybe some tourism benefits, but not to Martha and Henry. Some businesses, quite possibly, but our airport maybe, but I'm still the doubting Thomas, and I won't be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just quickly, Dan covered a number of points that I agree with. I will be supporting this project. I think that Grand Prairie needs to be a partner in this project because it has a direct benefit to ourselves. Relative to, it depends how we fund this and the rest of the budget as to whether that really will directly impact taxes. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. So any further discussion or debate on the motion put on the floor by Councillor Wong? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Okay, so that brings us into the community services area, and there's only a few of those. Gary, so we're going to start off in the community services area. And Councillor Gustafson, I don't know whether these were all tied together, but we'll start off. The first one is the CKC shipping area and trash compactor, $150,000 in 2013. Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Since we've put in this tunnel, the underground pedway, there's been lots of grief and lots of pain, and it's cost us a lot of money to maintain and look after this due to some possible landscaping issues that may or may not have been addressed or looked after in the beginning of the site plan on this building. So I need someone to convince me that we're not going to have any more problems with this tunnel when we put the retaining wall in and when we start driving trucks up and down above it, and I'm not sure where the retaining wall exactly is going, but I need some more information before I can support this.
Okay, so just so we're clear, there's 4 different projects going from the top list. There's the CKC shipping area and trash compactor, the Knowledge Way retaining wall, the multiplex south parking lot, and the tunnel safety upgrades. So, and all of those have been flagged. So, if Gary, if we can start from the top with the CKC shipping area and trash compactor and details.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the CKC shipping area and trash compactor is on the south side of the Coca-Cola Center and is really the shipping and receiving area for the entire multiplex complex. So that's where any chemicals, for example, for the pool get delivered and so on. It's also where garbage is removed, and the facilities department uses that area as primary entrance to get into their mechanical systems. They park their trucks there so because it's close to the systems for both the multiplex and the Coca-Cola Center. The current design has a curved road that goes into that location, and if you think about that, you also get tractor-trailer units to making deliveries. It creates a bottleneck and it gets very congested in that particular area. There is potentially some changes happening on the adjacent property where the Catholic School Board St. Joe's High School is, and that would enable us to be able to, at the same time, straighten out the shipping, the dock, the laneway that goes down there, to reduce the bottleneck, to make it more efficient, and to allow better access in and out. There is quite a bit of traffic, actually, that does go in and out of that particular location, especially with the multiplex coming on stream.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Roth. So, Councillor Gustafson, you were looking for some additional information. We're going project by project because they're not all directly related to the tunnel. And so you've received some on that one. Would you care to make a motion, or is there any further discussion or debate?
I'd just like to finish all 4 of them off because they're on the same site if we can. So where's this retaining wall go?
So the retaining wall is on the other side of the Coca-Cola Center. So it is between the, it is on the east side of the entrance of the Coca-Cola Center, and it's kind of between the parking lot and the road to the north. So between the road that's between the Coca-Cola Center and Mission Heights, neighborhood. On the far east end of it, there's a piece of the retaining wall.
Sorry, Gary, if I could just, while you're describing it, I wonder if anybody that could call up the map application.
That would be
yeah,
helpful.
Frank, could you call up the map on the CKC site so it's a little bit easier for people to get a reference about where these projects are? And Gary can sort of identify them?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It certainly would make it easier to present.
Okay, so we'll just take a second there while we find that.
I can continue to talk about the retaining wall. The retaining wall has shown some signs of failure. It hasn't been anything significant so far, but bearing in mind that that road to the north of the Coca-Cola Center has been closed during construction. Throughout construction, our contractor has been very careful not to place anything heavy on there. They did have some sea cans up there, but they were very light storage units holding dinosaurs that don't really weigh a whole lot. So it was used for some storage, but it was not used for very heavy intensive purposes. The plan going forward is to potentially allow for some parking on that road to the north of the multiplex, which would mean that it would be reopened to traffic and or parking. Engineering services with transportation is doing a review of the wall just to ensure the stability before we do move ahead with any parking at that location, just to make sure that it is safe to go ahead.
So this is a repair to the existing retaining wall?
That is correct.
Okay, so were we able to get that aerial photo up?
I think we're still working on it.
Okay.
The computer decided to shut down.
Okay, and so Gary, if you want to maybe just continue to talk about the
Yep.
south parking lot was the next one on the list.
So the multiplex south parking lot is the area where for the longest time, if you came for a tour at the multiplex, you came in through Wright Construction's construction area, their laydown area, and into the back door of the multiplex, so to speak, past the field house. That is that space right there. Because of the timing of their construction, the parking lot couldn't be finished before they vacate the space. For whatever reason, in previous budgets, that was excluded from the project as well. We know that we will need parking at the multiplex, and the intent is to gravel it over the winter and pave it come summer, giving us another 100+ additional parking stalls for the multiplex. And it will be between the two high schools. We also looked at making sure that when the new high school is constructed south of the gym next, that it won't interfere with our parking lot, that their laydown area will be in a different location so that we can go ahead with that parking lot.
Okay, I see a few folks ringing in the queue here, and just recently, so I'm imagining that it's on this specific item, the parking lot, or is it all of these? Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. It's a couple of the issues. Back to the retaining wall, you indicated that we could possibly allow some parking there. How much parking are we talking about?
Mr. Roth?
Yeah, as I recall, and it was approximately 70 additional stalls along the road as it curves from the front of the multiplex around to the north side of the building. And they would be angled parking, allowing one-way access on the road. From a traffic flow perspective, then it would mean if you come down the road that's all full, you could continue around Knowledge Way and find another parking stall on the south side of the building.
Okay.
Further?
Councillor Monroe?
And are we in need of more parking in the area? Is that, I'm getting the nod from Alderman.
Mr. Roth?
Administration certainly believes we are. Overall, on the site, the Community Knowledge Campus site, combining all the parking requirements for what is planned with the new high school, as well as the existing parking that is there, we do meet land use bylaw requirements. However, some of that parking is a long ways from the entrances to buildings.
Okay.
That's good for now.
Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. The retaining wall brings 70 more stalls. The shipping area is on the other side, right? The shipping area. It's just inconvenience for trucks to go in there right now.
Yes, the shipping area is to the south of the Coca-Cola Center, between the Coca-Cola Center and St. Joe's High School.
So I'm just hoping that we're voting not all clump because
No, we'll vote individually.
this multiplex south one, I know we did one here, we parkade it and it was whatever the government. How about grass and trees? We're gonna have a new public high school in front of the gymnastic building. It's gonna be tight in there, and you just wanna throw a parking lot. It'll look really good from the 68th Ave. I think grass and some trees would look nice.
Okay, so a question about landscaping, but so again, council members, we need to keep it focused on the details of, we're talking about the dollar value, is it in or is it out? And we're talking about whether we put trees around a parking lot, that's a detailed design issue, right? Okay. Do we have that aerial photo up now? So if we can maybe put Frank's monitor up on the screen so council members can get a little bit of an idea.
So this is an overhead view of the Coca-Cola Center. So the shipping area is to the south of the Coca-Cola Center. As you can see, it has a bit of a curved design in the sense that the actual entrance to the tunnel receiving area is actually below where the cursor is right now. It's actually down further than that. It's in about there is where the actual entrance is. So large units do have to back around the corner, and it is a very congested, bottlenecked area. The retaining wall is about where the two black vehicles are parked in that photo. In through there, that's the piece of the retaining wall that would have to be re-examined. The rest of the retaining structure along there is fine and not showing any signs of failure.
Okay, and, okay. So we've covered a couple of the items there. We talked, so the last one was the tunnel safety upgrades.
So
Yeah, okay, so Councillor McLean's just asking where the south parking lot would be. We may need to zoom out on that picture or. There we go.
well, it is showing in this picture. It is, so the area just below the multiplex site, so just below where the cursor, right where the cursor is now, it is in that particular area there. The new high school will be built where the cursor is now in that particular area, and there's a little strip in between the two buildings that would be a good location for a parking space. The advantages to that location is that it does allow the RCMP access to the building and would also increase our handicap capabilities as well. And that was factored into that 100 plus stall count as well.
Okay, Councillor Rice?
Why did the retaining wall fail?
Ms. Roth?
Just one little chunk of it failed.
There's just one chunk of the retaining wall needs to be upgraded. It's like I said, it's showing a slow failure. It's not like it completely collapsed. It's a slow movement. It's coming away from where it should be, and the intent is to go in and fix that and put it back.
Do we know why?
Engineering Services is doing a review of that right now internally in-house to look at why that's failing and to what we'd need to mitigate that.
Okay, and then so we had the final one on tunnel safety upgrades.
The tunnel safety upgrades, if I just may, Mr. Mayor, were not included within the scope of the multiplex contract, and that, I guess, addresses part of the concern about was it included, could it be included as a deficiency, so to speak. The tunnel connects the multiplex to the Coca-Cola Center to the St. Joe's High School, used for sharing utilities and sharing the shipping and receiving area. The actual upgrades would include gas detection, fire alarm, better fire upgrades to the fire alarm detection, fire separation, sprinkler system, means of egress, and of course there's some engineering costs that would be associated with it. The risk involved with it would be as if there is a fire in one part of the building, smoke and or fire could travel into other parts of the building. So a fire in the high school could affect the multiplex as an example.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Ross. So we've received information on all the first four flagged items in this area. I'd look for somebody to be making a motion to either, well, in this case, to unfund any of these or to change years, well, ultimately unfund these. Administration's making the recommendation of when they believe they need to be done. So unless somebody would like to make a motion to unfund or change any of these, then we'd move forward. So I'd call again on any of the items, and Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'd like to make a motion to unfund CKC shipping area and trash compactor area, 150,000.
Okay.
Can I have another motion?
Okay, well, we'll do them one by one, item by item. So Councillor McLean makes a motion to change the status of the CKC shipping area and redesign and trash compactor to unfunded. And so open for discussion or debate on that motion. Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. So what implications does this have on, you know, removing the trash and trucking around there and water drainage, those types of things?
Mr. Roth.
So, Mr. Mayor, there is actually another capital project in the current 2011 budget cycle that specifically is looking at water drainage from that particular area. And that hasn't proceeded yet because we're still working on some possible engineering solutions. So we do also get water that pools in that particular area. The biggest impact of this piece is more moving the south wall to allow a straight-in type of solution. It really basically is there to address the congestion that occurs in that area and also provides a more efficient way of handling the trash and waste from the building.
Okay, so we have Councillor McLean's motion on the floor. Councillor Munro.
Thanks, Mayor Given. So this this seems like more of a convenience issue. Is there any safety issues in regards to it?
Mr. Mayor, the only safety concerns would come in would be just the congestion of having tractor trailer trucks coming in there for deliveries. Like I said, there's facility maintenance staff that do use that area quite readily. So those would be more the safety issues. It would be around the congestion itself.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Mayor Gibbon, just to clarify, so we're approving to fund this or unfunded or whatever we're going to do. It's still going to come back to committee, is it not?
If
the last one?
if it's unfunded, it ain't coming back at all.
I understand.
If it's funded, if I would imagine if there was an award, a tender award, or that type of thing, but otherwise, no, it wouldn't come back. It would, unless there's some reason for purchasing or design approval by council. But really, what we're talking about is relatively a relatively specific area of administration about, you know, technical design, which I'm not sure that's.
So what about the drainage plan that hasn't been approved or finished yet or completed that affects basically all four of these?
Okay. So I just saw Mr. Anderson's hand up. Ken?
Yeah, GGS yesterday were proposing to increase the city's manager's limit to $250,000, so it would not come back unless directed by council.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Roth, Councillor Gustafson had a question about the previous project for drainage.
Mr. Mayor, the drainage project has some interrelation to how the site is designed and laid out, and we are looking for a solution. There is some issues. There's some technical issues that haven't been resolved at this point in time. So there could be opportunities in funding left over from that project that could be brought back to council to be re-examined. But at this point in time, we don't even have a solution for one part of the drainage issue. We're having an engineering investigation on it to.
So, in saying that, are we putting the horse before the cart here?
Certainly, staff have identified that they are related issues. The drainage is one piece of it, but dealing with the congestion and the anticipated congestion area with the extra deliveries for the building is another component to it.
I see a few other folks in the queue that like to speak to this, but just to that point about the horse before the cart, I think we have to recognize this is 2013 funding, so we're not talking about things that are going to happen tomorrow. Councillor O'Toole?
Mayor Given, can you give me an idea on how many times the shipping area would be used? Is it daily, weekly, or is it a monthly type thing?
Mr. Roth?
I can try my best. As I understand it, it is almost a daily type of activity. There are it's pretty regular, constant shipping activities in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wong?
Thank you. Mr. Roth, can you tell me, is that where the aquatic center is going to be loading its chlorine? And if so, is there a potential risk there having that? Is there a potential risk of having an accident there?
Mr. Roth?
Mr. Mayor, yes, that is the area where the chlorine shipments come in, as well as all the other chemical shipments for the pool, as well as potential shipments for food services and so on. It is designed as the main shipping and receiving area of for the aquatics, and it is where the chlorine does come into the building. That is one of the issues. In terms of safety, in terms of safe handling, we have the best safeguards in place as possible. The chlorine shipments come in, the trucks back up to the loading dock door, removed straight off the truck into the building, in through the tunnel and down into the area below the actual pool area. It is as safe as possible as we can make it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Is there two parts to this, the shipping area and trash compactor, or is that the area they call that, the trash compactor?
Mr. Roth?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor Crokin. There is a second piece to that, and that is that there was intent on adding a trash compactor into this project when it does go ahead. If it doesn't go ahead, there is no room in that particular location for a trash compactor. By redesigning it, we could create some room for a trash compactor, which would reduce the volume of solid waste by compressing it. And administration did note there could be some cost savings, although we don't have an exact number on that, to actually the solid waste removal. But again, that's also where the garbage comes out of the entire building for the campus.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, so we've had a fairly good range of discussion and questions on this one particular flagged item. So we have Councillor McLean's motion on the shipping area redesign and trash compactor for 2013, $150,000, and his motion was to remove this as a funded project. So I'll look to move to having the vote. So call for the vote.
So if we say yes, we want to remove it.
Correct. If we say yes, then we're voting to remove this project. If you say no, then it would stay in the budget as proposed. Okay? Is everybody clear on that? Was everybody clear on that before they voted? Anybody? Okay. Okay, thank you. And that motion does not pass. Okay, so we'll move on. Okay, and Councillor McLean, I see Councillor Gustafson in the queue. Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would like to move that all these come back through committee. Like, up to 250,000, Greg can spend it on whatever, but I'd like to see this, after the drainage plan is complete, that it comes through committee so we all make sure we're doing the right thing. Is that in order?
So Councillor Gustafson, you're talking about the south parking lot?
The top three.
So the south parking lot, the retaining wall, and the shipping and trash compactor?
Correct. I just want to see that committee again before, because first we talked about it, we're just allocating the money and it's going to come back through committee, and then now we're not coming back through committee. So I want to make sure it comes back through committee.
Sure. Mr. City Manager, do you have a suggestion?
Sure. We could do it a little different way. We could refer the planning and design activities around the multiplex knowledge campus back to committees to have an update as to what the different projects are doing. The actual approval, I don't know if you want to have the committee do the recommended approval, but I could still do that. But if you want to see what's going on there, we can do it through a committee referral that way.
Sure.
So I'll change my motion to a referral.
Yes, so I'll order a motion. Any council member can refer any item to a committee at any time, and so so we'll have that motion in order. If we'd like to have committee see the ultimate sort of design and future plans for these items, Councillor Gustafson, then sure, we can.
Along with the drainage plan, of course.
Okay, so Councillor Gustafson, can you make your motion and be specific to what items you want to see referred to committee?
I want to see the drainage plan, and I want to see the trash compactor, the retaining wall, and the south parking lot.
Okay, are you, okay?
Refer to a committee meeting when it's ready.
Okay.
Do I have to be date specific?
No. so we have that motion on the floor then to refer those items to, to ask for a referral to bring an update on those items to the appropriate standing committee. Okay? Councillor Radburn.
So I'm confused. First of all, we've had a vote on the redesign and trash compactor. So Alex's motion has got nothing to do with funding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or debate on Councillor Gustafson's motion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Okay, so we'll move on from there. Did anyone care to make any motion on the other three items? Councillor McLean, you had something.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I also want the multiplex south parking lot, because there is one on the west side for handicapped and people to use to get in. I'd like to see some grass and trees, so I don't think we need a total 600. It's a small area, and see if I'd see it unfunded for now.
Okay, so do you want to say I move that?
Okay, I move that we see the multiplex south parking lot unfunded 600,000, and if there's any funding to go towards grass and trees.
Councillor McLean, you're
Unfunded.
making a motion to fund or unfund
Unfunded.
project?
Unfunded.
Okay, so Councillor McLean is making a motion to delete the 600,000 in funding from 2012 and to move that to an unfunded
Because
project.
I just want to, and we're getting 70 extra lots with the retaining wall, and there was 109 here. So how many parking do we want around there, and how do we want it to look from outside?
Okay, Councillor Gustafson.
Well, I understand your intent, Councillor McLean, that if there's one thing we need on that site is more parking. The gymnastics center is full just with their gymnasts. The ice arena is full just with the skaters and the hockey players. I dread to think what's going to happen once we put the other school there. Not to mention a skateboard park possibly, and everything else that's going to go on there with the 2,000 people that building is allowed to hold in capacity. So. Unfortunately, I will be voting against your motion. There must be a landscaping plan for this site. Can we see that, or?
Mr. Roth.
Mr. Mayor, certainly there is a landscaping plan for this site. Some of the landscaping that would be included on the south side of the building is in a bit of a state of a limbo until the public high school further develops down the road too. It is being done in conjunction as a CKC site and through the CKC steering committee.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Radburn.
I would implore council to vote against this motion. We need the parking. If those of us who attended the chamber mixer, there's proof in the pudding. There are people parked. That's why the retainer wall for me, well, never mind, it's a go, I think. There hasn't been a motion to take it out. So we need every bit of parking we can put on that site. Thank you.
Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I also agree that we need every bit of parking that we can get on that site. It's unfortunate that this never got into the plan, or funding never got into the plan earlier on, but there was, we weren't sure about the plans for the public high school, whether or not they would be encroaching on any parking. So now that we're pretty sure what that new plan is going to look like and exactly where they will situate on the site, this parking lot location is new, so we need that parking. We talked to the Gymnics last Saturday, and they said that between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday, their parking lot is full for their own use. That's also going to be a peak time for our multiplex, and our multiplex is capable of holding up to 2,000 people in there. So even if you crammed 4 people per car, you need 500 stalls in that area. This additional parking was always part of the overall plan, and to take it out now would really harm the usage of the facility.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. I do agree also. We do need parking there badly, but maybe Public Works could help out. In every parking lot plan that I remember approving, there's always a percentile, like up to 10% or up to 5% has to be green or flowers or trees or whatever. And once we do pave, I mean, that's going to tell a story to the public school board. Of course, they're not going to rip up our parking lot. They'll have to build a little bit farther west. But there will be a green part of the parking lot. Is that not correct?
It's, Mr. Roth, can you speak to that?
The overall site plan for the CKC site does have more to the south of that location, so kind of where the St. Joe's School parking lot is now to where the public high school parking lot would go. There is some green space planned in there, as well as any edges or tertiary pieces to the parking lot that would have some opportunities for green spaces. Some of that hasn't been developed and can't be developed until the public high school planning gets further down the road.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you much, Mayor Given. Mr. Roth, could you tell me approximately how many parking spaces that we have presently right now? Just in a roundabout number.
I will have to, it will take me a minute to come up with an answer for that. Bear with me. I do know, as I already indicated, we do meet the requirements of the land use bylaw. It's just that some of the parking is maybe down along 68th Avenue and does require a significant walk. I'm sorry, I don't have the number.
I'm more interested in just the, around the multiplex itself, not necessarily the Coca-Cola Center.
Just while Mr. Ross is looking that up, one of the things that I think we need to keep in mind, first off, I'll be voting against the motion. I believe this parking is important. Secondly, I think one of the things that we have to recognize is this has become a mall. And so there are multiple entrances. If you're going swimming, you don't necessarily have to park on the swimming side. You could walk in through the Coca-Cola Center. The same way that if you're going to the mall, you don't necessarily park in front of the exact store that you want to. You go into the building and walk through it. So that would be one thing that I think council needs to consider. Ultimately, I support the addition of this additional parking, which wasn't part of the original plan, because I think it'll give better access and closer access to the door. But it's only really one of 3 access points to the building, depending on what facility you're going to use. So I think that's sort of an important note as well. Gary, were you able to come up with anything there?
My apologies to council. I do have a drawing that outlines the numbers in each of the areas and zones, and I don't have that readily available.
No, that's very, that's fine. I'm going to support the parking lot. We need 2 stalls, and if everything goes well today, we'll be adding 179 parking stalls.
Mr. Mayor, I actually just received an email from one of my staff.
Who's watching online?
Who must be watching online, who does have some numbers here for you, if you would like to
We'd
share
love to
that.
hear that.
Sure.
There are 47 stalls right by the front doors of the multiplex, 118 in the area that's more by the gym next, so that's adjacent to that. Coca-Cola Center parking lot currently holds 192 stalls. Staff parking at St. Joe's High School is 187 stalls. And then combined, the front part in front of St. Joe's all the way along 68th Avenue is 440 stalls, which is the whole area for where the students park now and the gravel area. There is proposed to be another 406 additional stalls added as part of the new high school project. Again, though, that's along 68th Avenue. We do gain 70 additional stalls by having parking along the road to the north of the multiplex, which is the angle parking that we have already talked about, and 109 in this particular location.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much. Wow, the power of that internet technology, hey? Okay, so we have Councillor McLean's motion on the floor. I think everybody's had a fairly decent go at it. So unless there's anything additional, then I'm going to call for the vote. A vote in favor means deleting the funding for the project. A vote against means keeping the funding for the project in the plan. Okay, so I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion fails. Okay, so we'll move on to the tunnel safety upgrades. Councillor Gustafson, you were the one that highlighted this. So do you care to make a motion one way or another?
Mayor Given, I believe I got the answers I was looking for, and this is tunnel safety upgrades is something that we desperately need as far as the fire hazard and the safety components involved in having a underground pedway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hearing that there's no motion from Councillor Gustafson on this. Then we'll move on from there, unless there's any interest. Pardon me? No action on any of the other items. Okay. Okay, so Councillor Monroe, I think you had the next one, the skateboard park, 2012. There was $200,000 in our plan, but it was currently unfunded. Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I guess this is one of the projects that ideally I would like to see funded. I'd maybe open it up for discussion and possibly a motion once I've heard from that. The reason why I'd like to see it funded is that I think that this will complement the multiplex quite well. I believe that the Muskosipi Park skate park has been quite successful in keeping our youth active. There's no cost to the youth to use it. As I understand it, the plan for this skateboard park, or the tentative drawings that I've seen, it's going to be open to the roadways, so it's not in an enclosed area. There should not be any issues of crime at it. It's a very open plan. And once again, I think that the benefits for the youth would be substantial, and it would basically just finish off the multiplex site itself. So I guess I'd open it up for discussion before I would be prepared to make a motion on that, just to see if there is support around the room for funding this project.
Okay, maybe just one question that might help council. Do we have any money currently for development of the skateboard park, and is this in addition or separate? Mr. Roth?
Currently in the capital plan from previous years, there's a total of $165,000 identified for neighborhood skate parks. So these would be small skate parks in pockets in neighborhoods throughout the city. Basically, that would get a pad and maybe one or two features. The intent in the latest research that administration has done is for a city of Grand Prairie size, it might be better funding might be better utilized to build more of a larger type of skate park, of a plaza design, where it would be open. It would look like a plaza that people could walk through or stroll through, which is what is being found to be really effective in other communities. This $200,000 would be addition to the $165,000, so we would reallocate that $165,000 plus the $200,000 into this particular project.
Okay, so I think that provides us a little bit of further clarity. Councillor Monroe, go ahead.
Just for clarification, though, this is the site that we'd be talking about at the multiplex. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I'm totally in support of allocating funds to the skateboard park at the multiplex site. I've talked to a number of people that are from out of town, and they would think that this is an added feature, and they don't have to travel all over town. They just go to one location, and so I'm totally in support.
Okay, okay, thanks very much. Councillor Radmer. And I'm just going to caution council members, I've been a little bit lax, and sorry, that's my role as chair in allowing discussion before making motion. I think just the way that I can see we're going to go for the rest of the afternoon, I think we're going to need to start with a motion from the person that raised the item. And so maybe, if you don't mind, Councilor Monroe, I'll throw that back to you if you'd like to make a motion now. That way we're actually discussing, debating, rather than having to do it a couple times around. So, Councilor Monroe.
Thanks, Mayor Given, and no problem with that. I'll go ahead and make that motion that we fund the skateboard park in 2012 for $200,000.
Okay, thanks very much. So now we have something very specific that we're speaking about, and so I'd ask council members to speak to the motion of funding $200,000 in 2012 for the skateboard park. Councilor Redmer.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I won't be supporting the motion. I believe that we have $165,000, that plus community partners was the talk. We'd get to around $200,000, which would be an excellent start that we could build upon at a later date. So that is the plan, as I understand it, that we're going to proceed on that site with a project around a couple $100,000 with set aside funding already, and then we might look at in the future adding to that with another phase where we would need more money. So I think that we're good for now.
Okay, thanks very much, Councilor Radmer. Councilor Wong.
I agree that this is going to be something that I'd like to see community partners contribute to. And I'd also like to see that site a little bit more developed before we add our skateboard park. So maybe it's just a little bit premature If we were to do it after that high school was built, then we can get a good idea of exactly how it's going to be situated and whether or not it's going to be as open a concept as we thought it was going to be.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wong. Any other discussion or debate? I'll just add then, from my portion, I won't be supporting the motion for mainly the reasons Councillor Radburn mentioned. I think really what we're doing with the money already in the budget from previous years is phase one. I think we certainly can, the design will be flexible enough to be able to add a phase two in future years. And I think there's opportunities for various sources of funding, other community partners. But I think it's reasonable for us to do phase one and then outside of this budget cycle, perhaps look at phase two. So that's why I won't be supporting the motion. I'll look for any other discussion or debate, or Councillor Monroe to close if you wish.
No, I don't wish to close it at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, so we'll call for the vote. On this one, a vote in favor means to add the funding. Thank you. And that motion is defeated. Okay. If there is no other action on that item, then we'd move on to Center 2000 roof replacement. And Councillor McLean, you were the one that had flagged this item. It is funded from the Facility Depreciation Reserve in 2012. Would you care to make a motion one way or another on this item?
Mayor Given, I don't know if I want to make a motion on this. I want some questions answered of an 11-year-old building, which cedar shakes is supposed to last 50 years. I don't know if there's asphalts on the other part, two-story. What is going on here? Is it leaking after 11 years? There's something wrong here.
Okay, so a question for additional information about the status of the Center 2000 roof is what we're looking for, and so we'll have a brief
And then maybe the
update on
motion.
information, and then we'll go back to Councillor McLean, and he can choose whether he'd like to make a motion to unfund the project. Mr. Roth.
During the break, Mr. Mayor, I did receive a copy of a report that was created by a consultant hired by City Facility Department on the roof on that particular building. That report was done in 2007, and it did indicate some fairly significant deterioration. Since that time, facilities did invest about $10,000 to do some repair work. There is still some ongoing leaks at that particular location. One of the bigger issues is not just in addition to the shakes themselves, but in relating to how the roof lines, the various roof lines line up and connect into the eaves troughing. When there are freeze-thaw cycles, it is definitely causing some leakage issues and with that particular roof. And the intent is to replace it with something that is going to be more effective.
Okay, Councillor McLean, there's some additional information for you. Would you care to make a motion one way or the other?
Just one more question, because I didn't.
Okay.
Are we going after the architect on this? 11-year-old building that's just not working well with, and is this fix going to fix it, or in 11 years we'll have to redo the roof?
So is there an estimate of how long the roof repair would extend the life of the building? Mr. Roth?
The indication in the report is that it would be a 50-year shingle type roof. It doesn't indicate as to the type of planning, the type of material for that, and the intent is that it would definitely increase the lifespan of the roof. I'm not certain on the status of pursuing the architect or the design for that. Administration would have to pursue that further.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McLean, would you care to make a motion one way or another on this? Okay, so we received additional information on the flagged item, and the council member that flagged it has chosen not to pursue any action, so we'll move on to item number 7 on our list, Councillor Rice and the Electronic Center message. Crystal Center, electronic, the big sign at the Crystal Center. Councillor Rice? Sure, yeah, either ring in or turn on the mic for yourself.
The electronic mesh, I believe that this plays a huge role. When it was operating, people often commented on it and used it as a good source of information. We have the ability to rent it out and actually make money off of it. So, and I think that it would take them a while to design it, to install it. I'm going to move that we put $25,000 in this year's budget for a design and order deposit on a electronic message center replacement at the Canada Games Arena. Knowing if you vote for this, you are committing yourself to funds next year.
Okay, so let's make a motion that covers the total amount. If you
Okay.
if you care to split it up into multiple years, then
Oh,
fair enough,
okay.
But,
I'll do 125 this year and 125 next.
okay, okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So we have a motion on the floor to add to the budget $125,000 in 2012 and $125,000 in 2013 for the electronic message center replacement. Okay, so open for discussion debate on the motion. See Councillor Crokin.
Thanks for giving. Like, when do we make this motion if we approve it? How do we know that it's going to, like, it's going to be 250,000? We're just giving somebody a budget figure that it's going to cost you 249,900. Like, I'm just uncomfortable. I don't know if that a sign like that. Maybe there's new technology coming out next year that we could maybe do it for 30,000 for the whole thing.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind on any of these items is that administration is giving their estimate in their professional research on what a cost would be for this, and that they would spend as much as they need to spend to appropriately put into place. So we've seen in other areas, albeit not often, but we have seen in other areas where technology comes down in costs that we're able to do it for under the budgeted amount. So I think council's role is to say administration thinks it's going to cost this much, and then administration's role is to go out and find a way to do it either for that price or less.
Okay, thank you. Like our paving show this year was considerable.
That's right.
Millions of dollars under.
This year, administration came back to us and said we've saved a significant amount in terms of the tenders that we saw for paving, and we can either do more work or put that money to future years, whatever, and council chose to do more work. So I think that's a perfect example.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I won't be supporting the motion. I'm completely comfortable with the way it's in the budget now. It's in the budget in 213, 125 non-government sources. I'm assuming that's where we're going to go to get advertisers or partners or whatever, and then and provincial grants. So I'm not comfortable putting in more funds into this, particularly since we're still awaiting. So if that can happen, it's going to go, which is great. But I don't want to add other funds to this, particularly because we're awaiting within the next 2 weeks to a month a report from Jane relative to this specific item. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any further discussion or debate on Councillor Rice's motion? Okay. I'll take an opportunity. I will be supporting the motion. I believe administration will find the most cost-effective way to do this, and I believe they will. I would hope that they would look for opportunities to generate revenue, and but that may be operational revenue, and I would prefer that we sell. If we can sell spaces on it and generate revenue over the next 10 years, then that's fine, rather than selling the entire sign to somebody up front. My concern is if it isn't in there, if we leave it to the non-government sources and other provincial grants. I've seen it float through a couple of budget cycles like that, and this is a project I think that for our premier entertainment venue in the city, I think is an important component, so I'll be supporting the motion. Anyone else care to speak to this? Councillor Wong?
Yeah, Mayor Gibbon, I would definitely like some clarification on the funding sources that were identified, because it looks like in the budget that it's a go from non-government sources and other provincial grants, and then on our sheet it says unfunded, and so that's why there is a little bit of confusion there. The non-government sources was going to be the extra capital improvement tax that's put on the tickets at the Crystal Centre. What was the source of the other provincial grants?
Okay, Mr. Roth, do you care to speak to the funding sources?
The initial funding source was for the capital improvement fee, as Councillor Wong had indicated, that is coming off the ticket price. The other grants weren't particularly specified, although I do know that there was a grant application that they were investigating pursuing. I don't know the exact nature of that grant.
Okay. Okay. So administration has looked for grants and hadn't identified a particular one at this point.
I was just wondering if Councillor Rice was aware of that, because then really only 125,000 is unfunded, and she had, her motion asked for 125,000 for the 2012 and then for 2013.
Okay. Councillor Rice, additional information? Microphone?
I would amend it then, just to 125 in 2012.
Okay. Okay, so Councillor Rice has amended her motion to add $125,000 of funding in 2012. And that would leave the rest of the budget unchanged, which would show non-government sources of $125,000 in 2013. Okay. Any further discussion on that motion, Councillor Wong?
Yeah, if I could, I would speak in favor of funding this. I think that it's something that's been missing from the Crystal Center for a while. It would help to boost promotions for any events that are there, rather than having those magnetic signs that they've been using. It just looks incomplete by having the electronic messaging board not working.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. So just to clarify on the motion that Councillor Rice has, she's amended her motion to reflect adding $125,000 in 2012 to replace the other provincial grants. Is that correct, Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Okay, so the $125,000 in 2013 from non-government sources, or the portion from ticket revenues, would remain. Okay, further discussion or debate? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to, I don't know what time. Oh, you know what, I wonder, so we're just about 2:30, nearly an hour and a half. Would it be an appropriate time to take a 5-10 minute break? Okay, sure, fair enough. There's a couple more on the Crystal Center. Why don't we make it through those, and then that'd be an appropriate point for a break. So Councillor Rice, you had Crystal Center expansion.
It pains me badly to make this motion because I hate to think of us doing a Crystal Center expansion piecemeal. I'll take what I can get, and I would like to move that we fund that expansion in 2013 and 2014. It is absolutely direly necessary for us to expand that building, to keep that building moving forward. It is a good source of revenue, potentially a huge source of revenue, but we have got to step up to the plate. We cannot continue to sit around and complain about what Dawson Creek has and do nothing.
So Councillor Rice, can I ask you, so you're making the motion, can I ask you to be specific about what it is that you would be moving in terms of dollar amounts for
Crystal
years?
Center expansion, 1 million in 2013, 1 million in 2014.
Okay, so $1 million in 2013 and $1 million in 2014. Okay, so we'll open that up for discussion or debate. On the table, Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I agree with Helen in a lot of ways. However, I believe we need some ice and not seats. Was at an event there the other day, and it wasn't really quite full. There's a lot of gray area in sorry, there's a lot of gray area in the how we do business in the facility, and I just don't think at this time I'd like to see some ice as opposed to some seats here. And I'm not sure how many times we filled that building up in the last couple of years, but I couldn't get an answer last time I asked, so I'll be voting against your motion.
Okay, thanks very much. I see other folks in the queue. I just would want to ask Councillor Rice 2 questions. First, is your intent that there's those amounts and then nothing beyond in the 15 to 16 range? I know that that's sort of outside. The reason that I ask is, for me, if this is the start to a gigantic project, I probably would not support it. But if this was a smaller project to maximize the use of that facility, I would. So what's your intent there?
My intent was to put that in to get something moving, and then we can deal with the future years, as, you know. Obviously, sorry. obviously, I would assume whatever we do could be built upon in the future should we decide to go further.
Okay, okay. And then secondly, I just sort of caucused with the city manager and said, asked about sources of funding. On the majority of these, I think the administration is probably the appropriate one to be giving us recommendation on funding. But on this one, is this something that we'd be looking at doing capital tax and paying for all in 1 year? Or is this something that council would like to direct administration that it's the type of thing that we'd do borrowing for? So I think maybe this scale of project, we should be telling administration what our expectation is. So are we looking at borrowing or at capital tax?
I would say borrowing. That was my
So would you
assumption.
include that in your motion?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So I think we need to be clear about that, because
Yeah.
the difference has a fairly direct impact on what the
Yeah.
outcome would be.
Sorry.
In terms of increase. Okay. No, that's different than we've had to do on any of the others. So Councillor Rice's motion, $1 million in 13 and 14, in each of 13 and 14, funded through borrowing. Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I don't think I can support this motion. I really like the idea of a phased-in expansion. The only thing is, we don't know what $1 million a year gets us, and I'd prefer to see that plan in place, or at least see that plan before we offer any funding. If it's going to be borrowing down the road, or grant money, or whatever we decide to fund it with, it could be added in a future budget once we see how, or what would be done and how that would impact the operations. So I'd hate to put, this is really putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you much, Mayor Given. Just a question to Gary Roth. Is there a plan for an expansion, and what are the expansion plans dealing with? Is it kitchen, is it seating, is it air conditioning, that sort of thing?
Mr. Roth.
Mr. Mayor, in 2002, there was an extensive expansion report completed identifying a $38 million potential expansion. Looking at that particular plan, staff have been in consultation with the architect and looking at what could be done in a phased-in type of approach, as well as an overall big expansion should council want to go either direction. A phased-in type of approach could add in additional seats and/or suites to the arena side of things. Could also look at adding additional rental square footage on the Bose Family Crystal Garden side of things, which would increase business opportunities for the building as well.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Radford.
Thank you, Mayor Given. It's going up and up and up. I cannot support this until I agree almost exactly with Dan. Plus, we need a business plan to go with this phased in so that we know exactly what we're getting, what market we're trying to tap to, because I'm not sure we can compete directly with Dawson Creek until I see what the phase-in plan is going to be and what revenues it might generate and what business plan, does it decrease our subsidization or not? I can't support this.
Councillor Radford, thank you. Councillor McLean. Sorry, Councillor McLean didn't call.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I won't be supporting this as well. I don't believe in expansion of the Crystal Center is the way to go whatsoever. I believe we were in President Ball, a lot of people, not just me, in the community, and they really think in the Bowles side there, they repainted it and it looks marvelous. I mean, they really done a great job just by painting. And to expand on it, where does it end? Even with a business plan, I don't believe in it. So.
Okay. Councillor Crokin.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm going to be supporting the motion because with that brand new sign out front, we're going to have more people rushing to our Crystal Center, believe you me. And I think it'll keep it fluid. I think we should put some new boxes in there. If we just sit and do nothing, we're going to sit and do nothing. But we're not going to ever compete with Encana. Let's not kid ourselves. They're way overbuilt for a 5,000 community. Let's do our thing, and I think move our little crystal ball upwards and brag about it on our new sign.
Thanks, Councillor Crokin. I don't see anybody else in the queue, so I'll take a brief opportunity. I won't be supporting the motion. I think I agree with Councillor Radburn and Wong that I'd like to see the plan. I wouldn't support any expansion of the Crystal Center that led to a $34 million expansion. I don't believe that's the right thing for the community, and for a lot of the reasons stated. I don't think we're going to be competing with other facilities that have more seats, but I think there are fantastic opportunities to expand the facility in ways that can generate more revenue. And if we can give administration some direction on that and bring that back in the future, then I'd be willing to look at this at a future budget, but I won't be supporting the motion today. So if there isn't any further discussion, I'm going to call for the vote. A vote in favor would mean adding $1 million in 2013 and 14 via borrowing. So if everybody's clear, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Okay. We had a couple others in this area. The one that I see on my list is Councillor Wong, touchless hand dryers. Councillor Wong?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Given. I just need some information here first. What does $20,000 get us for touchless hand dryers?
Mr.
Or $20,000 a year, I guess.
Gary.
Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, according to my notes, these would be the touchless jet-style hand dryers, similar to what are already in place in the Coca-Cola Center and the multiplex. The units cost about $4,000 each, and it would be a phased-in approach. The $20,000 a year would be needed to put them into all the washrooms in the entire facility.
So over the 3 years, all of the washrooms would get them?
That is correct. Over 3 years, it would take 3 years at $20,000 a year to be able to complete the entire project.
Okay,
Councillor Wong, so you have your information?
I will move that we fund the touchless hand dryers for all 3 years, so $20,000 for 2012, 2013, and 2014 for a total of $60,000. I think that this size of facility, we definitely need a means for people to properly wash their hands. I've had several complaints from people who go to Crystal Center events or Canada Games Arena events, and they enter the washroom, wash their hands, and then they see 2 hand dryers there, and there's a lineup for the 2 hand dryers, and they each take 30 seconds each. So, you know, they either walk out of there with wet hands, or a lot of the times they decide not to wash their hands at all. And I think, you know, if we're talking about health and safety concerns, that's probably one of the biggest ones that we should address in that facility.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. So your motion is in order, and I think very clear, changing that funding source to funded. And so I see folks in the queue. Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks. I'll be most likely supporting Alderman Wong's motion. However, can you tell me what it costs to operate these blow dryers, hand dryers?
Mr. Roth, do you have any information on operational costs?
Mr. Mayor, actually, I don't have any exact operational costs. It is newer technology compared to the older technology, so it's really hard to compare it, I think, at this point.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I would really like to know what kind that they are they're proposing. I had bought the Dyson vacuum, and I find it works very well. My wife's very happy with it. And this is a reverse process of that vacuum. And that vacuum was $500 and some. I can't see them costing $4,000. They have them at Costco. If we bought a group bunch of them, I'm sure we'd get them cheaper. But if it's a Dyson that's a 12-second, in a minute, you can have 5 people get their hands dry. So.
Thanks very much. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a clarification, does this add hand dryers to the facility or just replace?
Mr. Roth.
It would replace the existing there. Well, as I understand, it would replace some of the old existing ones, plus add some.
Okay.
How many? Never mind.
Okay. Councillor Monroe.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Sorry, maybe I missed it earlier, but do we currently have towel dispensers in the washrooms as well, too?
Mr. Roth.
So it's just
no,
the-
I'm seeing no.
Just the air dryers?
Just the
Okay.
okay. Councillor Rice.
I assume for that kind of money, it isn't those where you put your hands, that it's those new style that stand about this high. They're jet dry.
Mr. Roth, can you confirm that technology?
Certainly, that is the intent, is to get the hand dryers that only take a few seconds to dry your hands, or the ones where you drop your hands into and pull them out, such as you see in newer facilities.
Okay. Okay, so any further discussion or debate? Anybody else care to be in the queue on this one? So Councillor Wong has a motion to add the $20,000 per year for 3 years. I'll close and we'll call for the vote. Vote in favor means adding this to the budget. Thank you. And that motion carries.
Are we gonna do 11 and 12, or 11 and 12 before we break?
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. You know what, we will take a break now. I don't think there's anything tied up in us doing all of the Crystal Center items together right now. We can do them in 10 minutes when we get back. So let's try and be back for quarter two. So that gives us just under 10 minutes break, so a little bit of a wash and break. Okay, so we're a couple minutes after, but we'll call everybody back to order here for Council Committee of the Whole budget discussions. We're partway through, just maybe the first little partway through our flagged items. And we had left off on number 9 on our list for community services area. And that moved us on to number 10, which was Grand Prairie Public Library second floor expansion, $200,000. And that was flagged by Councillor O'Toole. So Councillor O'Toole, would you care to speak to that about why you'd flagged it? Were you looking for additional information? Or did you care to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor Given. The motion would be to make this go through. To speak to that,
Okay, so just for
I'd
clarity.
like the motion that we spend $200,000 on the Grand Prairie Public Library for expansion.
Okay, and just for everybody that's referencing their counts, their
Number
their
10.
budget book, there were 3 sources of funding for this project, and the total project cost was $452,000. The $200,000 then, Councillor O'Toole, that I think we're talking about was the $200,000 that was undetermined, and so
Yes.
you're suggesting that the city would fund that.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So speaking with that, when the Grand Prairie Public Library opened up, there was lack of funds to make this expansion happen, and there wasn't really a need for that, so it wasn't a big deal. But since the growth in the last few years, the need to have more room, usable room in the public library is definite. Between giving exams, second language exams, stuff like that, more storage room. There is no storage in the facility anymore. And just to have classroom space and that sort of thing. So if you feel that there's a need to vote in favor of this, be much appreciated by the library and their staff.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any further?
And the citizens of Grand Prairie.
Any further discussion or debate on the motion? Discussion or debate? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Does not pass. Okay. So we'll move on from that item to Crystal Center door replacement, $250,000 in 2012. And Councilor Monroe, I believe that was your item?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I think with this item here, I would maybe just like to request that we look at moving that to perhaps a later date, 2014. I don't know that it would be completely necessary to have those doors replaced in 2012. Maybe if administration could answer a question whether there's a benefit of moving it to 2014 versus 2012.
Okay, so question for administration about the door replacement, phasing of the project or timelines around the project, and if you have additional information, Mr. Roth.
Mr. Mayor, during one of the breaks, I did get some additional information from our staff at the Crystal Center. One of the concerns with the door hardware is that, or the doors themselves, is that hardware has become obsolete, and when the doors break, it's very difficult to find repairs for that. So that was one of the reasons why, as staff originally had recommended to have it in 2012. If it were to move back, that would just perpetuate over the following years, that we would have to continue those searches for the additional hardware.
Okay, so Councillor Monroe, that got you a little bit of information about why administration recommended the date that they did. Would you care, are you looking for any additional information, or would you care to make a motion?
I think I'm going to pass on this one. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, would anybody else care to make a motion on this item? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the stage replacement in 2012. Councillor Gustafson, there was stage replacement in 2012. $250,000 was the total project, and so and this was in the budget. So, Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you. I'm going to move we remove this from the budget. At this stage of the game, I think we have adequate staging facilities at the event center. Unless somebody can tell me that we're going to fill all the seats in that building with a new stage, My motion stands.
Okay, so Councillor Gustafson, you're making a motion to remove the $250,000 in 2012 for stage replacement.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Maybe for clarification, I'm not sure if this impacts anything, really, in terms of impact to our budget. This is, there's non-government sources identified here that for it to happen, they would have to find those sources. I'm not sure, Gary, if you can help us in terms of where they are. And the other two, I'm assume would be in operational budgets or someplace already. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure the reason to take it out.
Okay. So Mr. Roth, maybe you can speak to
In terms of funding.
some of the funding sources.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. The funding sources that were identified, first off, is the $144,000 actually comes from the facility enhancement fee.
Okay.
The 45,000 comes from an allocated amount for the stage replacement from a prior year's capital budget. So there was money that was set aside, but it was a small amount that was contributed towards the project. And as I believe, the 61,000 comes from the sale of the old stage.
Yeah. So with that information, I won't be supporting the motion. I think this is a good use of that fund, the 144 fund. That's exactly what it's used for. And if our staff believes that to attract performances and or whatever, they believe it's time for that change, then I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Robert. Councillor Wong?
I agree with Lauren on this one. Staff has indicated that it's time to replace that stage, and removing it from the budget here doesn't impact what the tax level increase or decrease would be. So I would see no point in removing it.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Any further discussion or debate? I'll take my opportunity then. On this one, my first inclination is to not support the motion for the reasons outlined by Councillor Wong and Councillor Radburn. I don't think it has a direct impact here. The one thing that I would say is that potentially if council voted to not do this project, then those funds from the non-government sources, the ticket revenues, could be used towards other projects potentially. Sure. So that would be the only thing that I would say, and so it would be a matter of priority. But I believe that administration has done their prioritizing and believes that this is an important project above the others. And that's why they've chosen to dedicate the funds that way. Okay, any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, then we'll call for the vote. To vote in favor means removing this from the budget, this project from the budget. And that motion does not carry. Okay. We'll move on then to live theater upgrades. And this was highlighted flagged by Councillor O'Toole. Councillor O'Toole, were you looking for additional information, or would you care to make a motion?
Yes, I have, thank you very much, Mayor Given. I have no intentions of making a motion. I just want to have some clarification on the funding sources and the project.
Okay, so just a question for a little bit of additional information and clarification. Mr. Roth, around the live theater upgrades.
I apologize for taking a few minutes there. Mr. Mayor, certainly the funding was identified to be funded over 2 years for the components of the building that we had saw as being most critical for safety codes and life safety. Those are coming out from the facility depreciation reserve, so the reserve is set aside for facility development or renewal. The other provincial grant funding source for the 2014 piece was a grant initiative that we would be applying for future upgrades for energy efficiency, for cosmetic changes, and so on to the building.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So Councillor O'Toole has got the information he's looking for. Councillor Rice, did you have something on this issue?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna move that we remove it I can't believe that we would put $1.2 million into a building when further down the list we have a new performing arts facility. I mean, they need to begin planning and fundraising for a new facility instead of just sitting there waiting for us to fix up a building that's, stayed too long at the fair. And I think, unless we really take a strong stand and encourage them to begin immediately fundraising and starting to plan for a new facility. And I'm just not prepared to put $1.2 million into that building.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So you're making a motion then
Yes.
to remove the funding from
Yes.
2012 and 2013. And 2014 was intended to be other provincial grants, so it's really those two that we're in control of. But-
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Councillor McLean on Councillor Rice's motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Given. I'll be going against this motion on Councillor Rice because I believe it will bring the theatre up to par with the curling rink, and then we won't have to build a $30 million new building. We know how fundraising went for the multiplex. I'm against it.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor McLean. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you much, Mayor Given. Thank you much, Mayor Given. If we do not do anything to the building and we leave it as it sits, how close are we to having this building condemned?
Mr. Roth.
Mr. Mayor, there certainly are some safety codes issues there. I'm not a safety codes expert to be able to say we've got this number of years, but certainly there are a number of issues that do need to be addressed within the fair near future over the next couple of years.
Just a follow-up, just a follow-up question. The money that would be possibly going into this, how does that relate to the curling club?
Mr. Roth.
When staff looked at the two projects, because the two projects are really one building, they're separated by uses, they did identify the timing and phasing to coincide with one another. There are some things in the curling club project that do help out with the live theater project. So for example, in the curling club project, there is an item where they're going to be actually enhancing the separation between the curling club and the theater, because you got warm space on one side, cold space on the other. That was included in the curling club piece. The live theater components are specifically to the live theater. Anything that would have benefited both was included in the curling club.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Toole. So if Councillor Rice's motion to remove this from the budget, any further discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Okay. And so we'll move on to Councillor Gustafson had flagged the Dave Bar twinning of $8 million in 2015, 2016. Councillor Gustafson, what was your intent there?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Given. Dave Bar twinning, something that's been on the books for a long time, something that's desperately needed in that neighborhood. I also believe that the way they do the usage survey around the city is kind of flawed, including late hours. I don't believe we use that sort of usage studies on some other facilities. So in that regards, I'm going to make a motion that we move $4 million to 2013 and $4 million to 2014 and move forward building the Dave Bar Arena.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Gustafson. On this item, and just like we did with some of the larger ones previously, we have a couple of options in terms of funding. There's capital tax, which essentially would be paying for it up front with tax in each year. There'd be borrowing or perhaps MSI, just on the scale of the project. So I wonder if do you have a specific portion of that you're suggesting?
Well, I believe at this point the only thing to do would be to borrow it.
Okay, so are you including that as your motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to move Dave Bar twinning of $4 million in 2013, $4 million in 2014, with a source of debenture borrowing. Okay, so that motion's in order, and we'll open it up for discussion and debate. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. It pains me to say this in a lot of respects, but I can't support this motion. I think the county's new facility will help us for, I'd say, 2, 3, 4 years. Just in terms of our budget, trying to keep our budget increases low. I think that this has to be for the next 3-year budget until we see the impact of the county's new facility. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Croghan.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I'll be supporting this motion. We have been under-iced for some time now, and our youth are very, very active. There's not only just hockey, but there's recreational. And this new arena that they're going to have out 7 miles out in the county there, it's not going to be very accessible to our young citizens. There will be no bus service. There will be no way to get to it. So my one question was, I support it, but my one question was, is that new ice compressor or whatever they call them now, would that work for the new surface?
So in terms of the renovation that was just recently done to the
Yeah,
Dave Bar Arena,
yes.
would those renovations be useful in any twinning? Mr. Roth?
The simple answer is no. There are some efficiencies that could be gained from the existing, but it would still require more additional ice plant work.
Probably we could use the same Zamboni, though.
I believe we could. Okay, Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. Unfortunately, I will not be supporting this motion. I think that it's possibly just a little bit premature to be going down this route, in particular with the county development of their new ice rinks. I think we're just a little ahead of ourselves and like to give it a couple more years. Thanks.
Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I won't be for this motion. A couple reasons. There's 2 new arenas coming just north of us, and as well, we're doing an awful lot in the south and not the northeast area and stuff like that, so I'm not quite sure Dave Bar would be the area for the next arena.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor Gustafson to close?
Thank you, Mayor Given. With the renovations on the Dave Bar that took place here the last couple months, it was quite clear that being short one ice really impacted all the other surfaces around the city. And I'll just encourage you to add more ice to this city. Thank you.
Okay. You bet. Thanks, Councillor Gustafson. We'll call for the vote then. So a vote in favor would add $4 million in 2013 and 2014 through debenture borrowing. Call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Okay. Councillor Gustafson. Councillor Gustafson, did you have something further there?
That one slid right over.
Yes, I'd like to move this. We forward this to 2013 budgets after the counties open their facility, to 2013 budget deliberations.
Okay. So Councillor Gustafson, since your motion didn't pass, the item will stay in the 2015 to 16 range, and so it will be in our budget books every year we look at the budget. And so council will have the opportunity to make a motion to move it forward or vary the decision at any point. So I don't think it's necessary to do that. It'll be reflected every year when we review the budget.
All right then, thank you.
Okay. Next, I believe, was Dave Bar sidewalk renewal, $130,000 in 2012. And Councillor McLean, you had highlighted that item. This is something that is in the budget for 2012.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I just want to have this unfunded, the money to be used for other projects. They just did sidewalks there, and we're doing $2 million around the city, so I think that we could use the money maybe elsewhere. Unfunded. I don't want this to go motion.
Okay.
Yeah. Make a motion for it to not do the sidewalk renewal at Dave Bar.
Okay. So motion to unfund the sidewalk renewal at the Dave Bar in 2012. Okay. Okay. So that motion's in order. Any discussion or debate? on that motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. A vote in favor would remove this from the budget. A vote against keeps its status as in the budget. And I think we've got one more, folks. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Okay, and that brings us to number 16 in the community services area. Councillor Wong, you had flagged the leisure center upgrade, $2 million in 2013 and 14 that was previously unfunded. Do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Given. I'm going to move that we fund the leisure center upgrade for $2 million in 2013 and $2 million in 2014 through debenture borrowing. And in speaking to that, that's an aging facility that needs upgrades. It needs, it's going to need work regardless of what's done to that building in the future. Whether we find partners to help us run that facility in the future, we're going to have to bring that building up to current standards. Whether we decide to run it ourselves in the future, we're still going to have to bring that up to current standards. Funding it in 2013 means that the work will be done in 2013, so the center will shut down for all of 2012. It'll shut down for most of 2013, possibly right into 2014. So it'll be shut down for a number of years, which will give us time to react to whatever offers are made to us. If we do find a partner who's willing to offer some funding, because this is debenture money, we could just borrow what is needed. This gives us the flexibility and puts us on the high side of what we need to account for in the future, because this debenture will have some funding implications on the operation side of things. So that's why I made the motion that way.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much. That motion's in order. Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I want to know from administration what it costs us to operate that building when it's closed for the 2012 year.
Mr. Roth?
Mr. Mayor, that's included in the current capital plan, which will be, or the current operating plan, which will be coming to next week. However, administration has identified that just by closing the facility and leaving the soccer pitch intact will cost approximately $500,000 net operating each year. That includes just maintaining the basic utilities as well as staff for the soccer pitch.
So, do you have any estimate of what it costs just to maintain the pool end of it, the closing part?
Mr. Roth?
Half of that, or?
The staff did look at just to maintain the pool area.
So, Councillor Guston, so I suppose is it correct, are you asking of the approximately $500,000, what portion of that is applicable to the pool that would be closed, and which portion would be applicable to the operations of the soccer center? Is that what you're asking?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon.
Mr. Mayor, I do not have that broken out at this point in time.
Okay. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I am in full support of the motion that Councillor Wong had presented, and I will be voting in favor of that decision.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any further discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor McLean?
I'd just like to ask Councillor Wong on this motion that he put forward of $2 million, $2 million, $2 million. He wants, as soon as it's closed, to proceed with renovations and do the $5 million deal. Is that what you're suggesting, Councillor?
Councillor Wong, do you want to clarify your motion?
Yes, my motion is to start that funding in 2013. So until that funding comes into place, no work can be done until at least then. And I think that gives enough of a reaction time for us to get our multiplex up and running and figure out what the operations are for that first year and then proceed forward.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wong. Any further discussion, debate? Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Just a question for Gary. Gary, do we need to close that facility down for 2013 and 2014? Or can, I guess the pool in particular, can the pool be used at all? Like how long to do the pool work that needs to be done in that $5 million project that Kevin referred to?
Mr. Roth?
Certainly, there's really two ways of looking at it. The pool did just go through a shutdown and is operational at this time. So that is one way of looking at it. The other side of it is the consultant had indicated that the timing or the phasing of the project could be done over 3 years, or it could be done in one lump sum as well. They did look at options for phasing as well. So there's really a multitude of options in looking at it.
Thank you. With that information, I will be supporting the motion. I do think it's prudent to close that facility down next year while we use the year to both entrench, I guess, or get our multiplex going, but also to pursue partnerships both on the capital and maybe operating side. I know there's a commensurate operating cost. I think it's modified hours at the most. But I do recognize that, but I still think that this is a facility that will, on a go-forward basis, be well used by our community. Thank you.
Okay. I see Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. If it's looking like another year, we're going to go forward and looking for extra, it's just going to sit there for another year and a half. And by that time, we're going to start the 2 million renovation or the 5 million. It's going to be more. And then, well, we'll probably need more maybe, depending on the economy. So I just think if it's sitting empty and we're going to go that way, maybe we should implement it quicker than not. Make an amendment to the motion.
You have the right to do that.
Okay. I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that if it is going to be closed, it should...
There should, sorry,
okay.
Councillor McLean, in a motion,
Okay.
should be,
Okay.
I don't think if is a word.
Okay, no.
Motion should be, I move that.
I
this
move in my
happens.
motion that as soon as the facility closes, that a bid's put out to renovate it for whatever it's going to cost.
Okay, so
5 million.
Councillor McLean, just for clarity, Councillor Wong made a motion about funding this project in 2013, 2014. So if you wanted to make a motion about moving that funding
forward.
by years, changing the funding source, those would be appropriate. We need to specify the year and how much you're moving to that year.
Okay, I'd like to move it forward to 2012, and then instead of waiting until another year or two down the road, move it forward and let it proceed immediately.
Okay, so is your intent to move $4 million into 2012 or to keep the...
And it'd be for borrowing. We'd have to borrow on this.
So my question is, are you moving all of the funding to 1 year? Are you moving?
No, I don't think. It'd be two, depending on how long it takes for the construction.
Okay. So we can't make motions depending on. You need to make a motion that says, I want this much money in this year.
Okay, well, you got 2 million for 2013, 14, 16, so move it 2 for 2012 and 4 for 2013.
Okay.
So then it's done. It's only
Okay.
going to take a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, so thank you very much. That motion's in order. So Councillor McLean is voting to amend Councillor Wong's motion to reflect $2 million in borrowing in 2012 and $4 million in borrowing in 2013. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. So we have the motion as amended. I'm going to rule that in order. And we'll speak to the amendment. Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Given. I was going to speak on the motion, not the amendment, but there was 3 proposals, and I'm not for closing it. When it gets closed, those potential partners that we are working with, and I wish we'd work with them a little harder, and I'm sure it'll be viable. But to move all that money into 2012, I have found one source of $1 million already, and that's the museum. There's $1 million right there, so if we could find another couple of million, keep it open.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm going to speak against moving the funding forward for a number of reasons. First of all, we've directed our administration to look for partners, and they need to be able to have some time to do that, and the structure of the partnership is going to depend on how much we fund. If we decide that we're funding the entire amount right up front, I believe we're going to have a different set of offers made to us. If we decide to fund this starting in 2013, it allows fundraising groups to get out there and start banging on doors and start raising some money for this facility. I think we tend to do things backwards, where we fund it first and then start asking for people to contribute to it, and we lose that sense of urgency. So by allowing a year's grace, it allows groups to get started up and start building up some capital funding for us and contributing to the project.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wong. So on the amendment, Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. As well, I will not be in support of this amendment. I'd like to echo exactly what Councillor Wong just said as well. To add to that is that we will never know how much demand is placed on the new multiplex facility if we have something that's automatically competing with it right from the get-go. I think that we do need to give it some time, find those partners, and then reestablish the leisure center once again. And I would be in support of the original motion. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Gustafson.
Thanks, Mayor Given. We've been planning to close this pool for quite some time now, and I don't think there's any possible way we could possibly staff it right off the hop. And on top of that, I don't really want to be our own competition. It's it's nice to have one pool where everybody has to go to us. So I'll be voting against the amendment as presented.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gustafson. Councillor Rice?
I will be supporting the motion. I believe that the citizens have spoken loud and clear in the last little while about leaving that open. If a $110 million facility filled with fake dinosaurs can't stand on its own, then we have a huge, big problem. I believe there is a market for both the multiplex and the leisure center, that they would be used for different things. And I believe that we have heard from a large number of citizens for that reason, saying keep it open for these uses. And I believe we have an obligation to do that.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Councillor McLean? Sorry, Councillor McLean, you're... sure, Councillor McLean, I'll certainly give you an opportunity to do that, but if there's anybody else to discuss the amendment, I'd like an opportunity to get in as well. I'm going to be voting against the amendment. I think we need to give the community an opportunity to see how the usage patterns change with the multiplex. I believe Councillor Wong, his description about if the city chooses to fund it, our opportunity to bring in additional partners decreases dramatically. I think we've seen that with the multiplex. Ultimately, I think that we need to open the new building, the community needs to experience it, and then we need to measure demand to decide whether the leisure center is needed at all. I think there are certainly people that are passionate about it today, but those are people who haven't had the opportunity to spend any time actually using the new building. And I think there's a high probability that many of those users will prefer the new building. And I think just in terms of the operational costs, which Council's seen the documents and the plan that was presented at committee earlier, if we choose to run the building even on modified hours, it suggests that it's going to cost us, I think, approximately an extra $1.5 million or $1 million per year in operational subsidy. And that doesn't account for any operational losses that we'd suffer at the multiplex because we'd be our own competitor. So I can't support this at all. If the community comes to me after we've had the multiplex open and says, you know what, increase my taxes to open up that old building and renovate it, then I would be willing to support that. There are people who are saying that today without having the chance to experience the building, and I can't support at all funding this project at this time in any date. Fair to keep it on the books as unfunded. We can look at it next year. We can look at it the year after that or at any time, but I think we really need to have the community have an opportunity to get inside the new building. Councilor McLean, did you want to close on the amendment?
Yes, I might have got changed up there a little bit. I did want it to close, but immediately start fixing the building. That was my amendment, to not just keep it open and running and fix it as is, because then you're spending on operating money, which I think was a total waste. If you're going to close it, start fixing it. But okay, I'm just verifying that.
Okay. So we had round of discussion on the amendment. The amendment would move $2 million of funding into 2012 and $4 million into 2013, and the source of funding for that would be borrowing. So we'll call for the vote on the amendment. A vote in favor would move those items into the budget. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. So we're back to the original motion as proposed by Councillor Wong, which, and I'm sorry, I may stand to be corrected, but would see $2 million in 2013 and $2 million in 2014 funded through borrowing. So a total of $4 million in this budget cycle. And I would ask if we need a round of discussion or debate on that motion. I know that I don't. My previous comments, I think, summed up my feelings on the entire issue. Anyone else care to jump in the queue, or have we talked it out? Looks like we've talked it out, so I'll call for the vote. A vote in favor would move this into the budget. A vote opposed would leave it as undetermined, but it would still remain in there as an item on our list. Thank you. And that motion carries. So we'll move on next to Muskosipi Park irrigation system upgrade. In 2014, Councillor O'Toole, you'd highlighted that item.
Yes, I have no intentions of making motions on either one of 17 or 18, but I would like, and I'm totally okay with the funding and how it is, just let some clarification, please.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for clarifying your intent. So, Mr. Roth, if you can give us a little bit of additional information on the Muskosipi Park irrigation system upgrade and Muskosipi Park North Phase 3, is that correct? Councillor O'Toole?
Yes, yes it is.
Mr. Roth?
I'll start off with the irrigation system upgrade. The irrigation system upgrade with intent was to take water from the reservoir, pending, of course, Alberta Environment approval, and use it on for the area that does get irrigated, which is around the amphitheater area in the Muskosipi Park. It would be a more efficient use of water, because right now we would currently use potable water when we do need to irrigate. Certainly that was the intent behind that upgrade.
Thank you very much.
If you bear with me for a few moments, I can answer your question around, provide more information around Phase 3.
So, while Gary's finding that, Councillor O'Toole, was there something specific that you're looking for in terms of what the details were on?
I just wanted to know where the area was that was getting irrigated. I know there's a
Sorry,
little...
on Phase 3, we're talking about now.
On Phase 3? Just what the phase encompasses.
Mr. Roth?
So, Mr. Mayor, certainly Phase 3 involves the installation of furniture, any signage, additional lighting, replacement and upgrading of any trees, shrubs, and perennial plants in that particular area. So Phase 1 is the design work. Phase 2 is the actual physical extension of the trail system and into that space. And Phase 3 is the final finishing touches, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you very much. Clarity is good.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. So we can take 17 and 18 off of our list, and that would bring us to 19. Councillor McLean, you'd asked for additional information, I think, on the Muskosipi Park maintenance garage, or do you care to make a motion?
Information, where do they plan on building this garage?
Okay, so we had, this morning we had administration told us that they hadn't settled on the exact location yet. And there was a recommendation that we could bring that back. I can't remember, did we actually make a referral? Thanks. So Intergovernmental Services Directors noted that we did make a referral to committee to bring back the siting of this before anything was implemented. So what we're talking about today then is the funding. So.
I'll pass on that. I'll do the next one.
Okay, Councillor Rice?
Don't they store their maintenance equipment now up at the old fire hall?
Mr. Roth?
And isn't that working much more efficiently?
Mr. Mayor, the Urban Parks crew actually stores their maintenance equipment at the old fire hall. So that's the crew that looks after, for example, Jubilee Park and a lot of the hanging baskets in the downtown, the planters downtown, and so on. There is a shop still connected onto the pavilion that does have some equipment in it, including the piece of equipment known as the tool cat. That's where that is kept and stored. So that is the piece of equipment that's used for the trail maintenance, plus they use that shop for some maintenance activities.
Okay, so it looks like additional information was all that we needed, and the item will be referred ultimately before a final location is chosen, so we'll see that at committee. So we'll move off of that one. And number 20 was the Muskogee Outdoor Spray Park. So it is in our current capital plan. And Mr. Roth, if you were going to give us some details on that, so we knew what the status was, and yeah. Mr. Roth?
So currently at the break, we were able to track down the funding sources that we currently have. In previous years' capital plans, we had $80,000 committed in 2007, 11,000 in 2010, and 240 in 2011, bringing that to a total of $331,000 that's already set aside. So there is funding there. The project just hasn't proceeded for various reasons. There was also, administration also had pursued funding from a source called Aviva Community Funding, where through a private granting type process, and that hasn't been resolved yet. That was a $100,000 potential amount that could be attained there, but again, the city is competing with other projects across Canada for that funding, so it's not a guaranteed secured source.
Okay, so there's some additional information. Councillor McLean, what's your wish? Do you have any action you'd like to take?
Yes, Mayor, again, I'd like to make a motion for 2013, I think 2014 is the 100-year celebration, to have the water park done up and built in for 100-year celebration and be ready for 2014. So 2013 budget or 2012, we got money there now, and I'm sure there's other reserves where we draw some more money.
Okay, I'm going to rule your motion not in order, Councillor McLean.
Oh.
But I need you to be specific about how much money
Okay.
you believe should be in the budget and in what year it should be coming.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Given. I'll bring this back to Gary. How much do Sexsmiths just, what would we be looking at to do a proper, nice water park for the families?
Mr. Roth?
When the administration applied for the Aviva community funding source of additional $100,000, they believed that that plus what was existing in the budget would provide us an exceptional water park, which would include the design work as well.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor McLean?
So I'd like to make the motion that 2014 is the celebration, so 2013 that we have the extra 100,000 to have the start and finish of the water park.
Okay.
Extra $100,000.
Okay, so Councillor McLean's motion is add $100,000 in 2013 towards the Muskogee Outdoor Spray Park. Okay. Discussion and debate on the motion. Councillor Rice?
It's a great motion. Unfortunately, I can't support it. Certainly, the 100th Anniversary Committee has been working extremely hard in terms of identifying projects. There is about 1,000 projects that people have put forward, and at this point, limited funding. And I think that committee is working extremely diligently way ahead of time to set the tone so that everything that happens in that anniversary year has a flow to it and enhances and reflects well upon that year. This project, they may well be back next year asking the city to do that, but I think it's a year premature till we know how it fits into the big picture.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Rice. Councillor Gustafson?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I won't be supporting this motion at this time either. I believe, first of all, we're going to be wet enough with the Leisure Centre and the multiplex opening up. And if we're going to spend $100,000 in that area, I'd rather spend it on some upgrades to the well-used outdoor pool. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gustafson. Any further discussion or debate on Councillor McLean's motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. To vote in favor would add $100,000 in 2013. Okay, we'll start the vote. And thank you. And that motion does not carry. That would bring us then to item number 21, Councillor Gustafson, PUL locks and signage. There was already, I believe, this is already in the budget, $30,500 in 2012. Councillor Gustafson, what were you looking for?
This is capital tax that we need 30 grand towards locks and signs that aren't going to keep people out anyways. If they want in there, locks and signs isn't going to stop them. And on top of that, we've been waiting and waiting patiently for a report in regards to public utility lots and easements in the city. So I think this would be best off after that comes forward. Therefore, I'll remove this at this time.
Okay, so Councillor Gustafson's motion is to remove the 2012 funds for PUL locks and signage. Okay. So discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor O'Toole?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I understand that if this does go through and there is a need for the locks, that this wouldn't have to go to committee to get put through anyhow?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the city manager,
Yes.
purchasing authority, yes.
So, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wong?
Just wanted to clarify that last comment. If it's in the budget, then the city manager could approve it, but if it wasn't in the budget, then he can't. Okay. So I'm going to speak against this motion. I think administration has identified this to be a priority, and they've identified that there are a number of people that have keys to these PUL lots already, that they might want to have a little more control over that. So it's a small item in the capital budget, and it's something they feel that they need.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I'm going to speak in support of this motion. I think that if the only issue is that people have outstanding keys to this equipment, I don't know if that's necessarily the end of the world here. I don't see any harm being done right now as it is, and I would speak in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Monroe. Any further discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. A vote in favor would remove this from the budget. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Okay, and that brings us to item number 22, Councillor Radburn, Minor Ball Association, Ball Diamonds at Evergreen Park, and you had a question about these ones that were previously funded in previous budgets. Councillor Radburn, what was your question?
Well, I'm going to provide a context first, and then maybe a question, and then a motion, if I might, Mayor Given. Last term, we were presented with a proposal from the Grand Prix Minor Baseball Association to help their project at Evergreen Park with increasing the number of diamonds for baseball in and around Grand Prairie. At that time, it was supported by council. It was a 5-year project at $60,000 a year. We have last year's budget, last term's budget, or last 3-year cycle budget. The last 2 years we've supported it. And so there still is some outlying years left on that. So my question is, first of all, to Gary, have we received word from Minor Baseball Association that that funding is not required?
Mr. Roth?
Mr. Mayor, that's exactly the reason why I wasn't included in this budget. My staff advised me that originally there was a request of an ongoing request for 5 years. The Minor Ball Association has come back and said their work is basically completed, that they didn't plan on continuing on any further, and that's the reason why it wasn't included.
Thank you very much. Therefore, there'll be no motion.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Thanks for the clarification. That brings us to the end of the community services list. I think we were booked to go till about 4 o'clock, and we've got some time, and certainly we could go into a couple of the other areas. Ken, you look like you're ready to go. Well, we'll move on to the corporate services area, and Mr. Anderson. So the first item was one that I had flagged, the cash card system, and I had asked to have that flagged in concert with the transit card, smart card fare collection. Both of these are unfunded currently. And so I'll just sort of speak to what my intent was. I believe that, first off, these should be the same system. If we're going to do a smart card or a cash card system, essentially what we're talking about is your Timmy's card that you can reload with money, and you'd be able to use at any city facility like cash or like a debit card. If we were going to do that type of system, then it really needs to work across all city services, and there would be absolutely no sense to having one card for the bus and one card for a parking meter or for use at the multiplex. So I believe that one of these projects should go ahead. I'd look for administration. Is there a is there an amount, or is there a right one of these that would be able to encompass this overall project, or should it be a combination of the two? Mr. Anderson.
Well, with regard to the cash card, the financial industry is researching and moving in this direction, so it would be reasonable to wait a while and have the industry develop these systems as opposed to us developing them. The one that may have some merit would be the transit system. It may be worthy of exploration. But I think the cash card and loading up cards is moving forward, and many banking organizations are moving in that direction.
So are you suggesting that there's not a need for the city of Grand Prairie to implement its own type of cash card?
Well, it would be the leading edge here, but it could be costly, and financial industry may come up with different options. So I think these things are being developed fairly quickly. If we hang on, we could just tag on to existing technology.
Okay, thanks very much for the information. Although I'm a supporter of the concept, I think it'd be fantastic to be able to see residents have one card that they could charge up, give to their children, for example, and they could use those for entrances at one of our facilities, or to get on the bus to get to the facility. It sounds like administration isn't ready to support the concept, and if they aren't, I'm not either. And I'll leave both of these as unfunded. So we can take off number 1 off corporate services and number 13 off of public works. The next one was corporate IT initiatives, and Councillor Rice, you had highlighted that one. These, I believe, were in the budget. $200,000 in 2013 and $100,000 in 2014. Would you care to speak to it?
Your turn. Okay. Okay, remind me what they are, because you know, every year it goes on and on. You know, this computer system that we bought that was going to save us $18 bajillion a year. Every year it just sucks money out of it like it was a corporate vampire. What is this for now?
Sorry, Mr. Anderson.
The item for 2013, the bulk of the money is for the council chambers. The technology in this room is 8 years old, and we need new software and back-end technology here. As you can see, it's got me masked out now.
You set this up.
So in 2013, it's council chambers.
Correct, and then 100,000 in 2014 is related to business intelligence and data mining. We have multiple databases throughout the organization, and in getting better use of that data. We have extensive data that's captured, so we need to use it better. That's what that would relate to. So
if I were to say, okay, 100,000 in 2013 and 50,000 in 2014, what would that do?
Well, you wouldn't get as good technology in here as you could have.
It's lousy now, you know, like, it's supposed to be fabulous. It never works. So what do we care? We just have a less expensive system that doesn't work.
Mr. Anderson, so Councillor Rice, what was your question?
Well, my question is, could we do something with that kind of money, or does it have to be first class or we're not going?
Mr. Anderson?
Well, I got this number from the technology department, and they believe $200,000 would give the up-to-date technology required in this room. This technology 8 years ago was fairly leading amongst municipal organizations. Many municipal organizations have adopted similar technology, but it's time for us to replace it and take the lead again.
Okay, I'm going to move that we remove $100,000 in 2013.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So Councillor Rice's motion is to remove $100,000 in 2013 from the corporate IT initiatives. Discussion or debate on the motion? So Ken, just for clarity, does administration have a Was there only one project in 2013? I just need to be clear on that. And if so, yeah, was there only one project in 2013?
Well, that's correct, and if it does get reduced to 100, my suggestion would be to eliminate the business intelligence and data mining and do council chambers properly.
Okay.
And I don't mind, like, they can do whatever they want with it.
Okay. Okay.
So that's all the money they're getting in my world.
Okay. Discussion or debate on the motion? Okay, I'll take an opportunity then. I think we need to be careful. I won't be in support of the motion. I believe administration has gone through and researched what the appropriate amount is for the projects that they would like to see. If we'd like to say that we don't want to do the data mining project and the whatever, then that's fine. But I think administration comes to us with their best professional advice of, to do this project properly, here's what it will require. And unfortunately, you know, I don't believe there's the level of detail here or the expertise around the council table to be able to say, no, I think you're wrong. We pay some people a significant amount of money to research this type of stuff, and they're professionals in their field, and I think in this case in particular, I believe we have to go with, I trust their advice and recommendation. So I won't be supporting the motion. Any further discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. And that's everyone. And that motion carries. Okay. So we move on to Councilor Rice. You had security and disaster recovery.
Can I know what this is?
Mr. Anderson?
Like, that's a lot of money.
Well, a lot of these security requirements are industry compliance requirements. Like, for example, the payment card industry, we accept credit cards, debit cards here, and they set out standards. And there's stringent security requirements that are attached to those systems. And if you don't have them, and if they do an audit and they're not present, you can lose the ability to use credit cards and debit cards here. So these are industry standards. I know they're significant, but security is becoming a greater issue.
$1 million over what we have now. Surely we must have some systems in place.
It's pretty limited at the moment. We've engaged a security analyst a couple of years ago, and he's been building up the program. And he requires this because the industry requirements are tightening up on the security side.
Councilor Rice?
Yeah, I'm really disturbed about this. Like $1 million to me, it just, I think, again, you know, everything has to be top of the line. You know, I never yet met an IT guy that didn't, that thought in less than six digits, six figures. I don't know enough, as the mayor has pointed out, to say I don't think so. But I don't know how to go about getting some more information. I wonder if we could, like, table this till tomorrow and have the information, if he's been dealing with some.
Okay, I think it's reasonable. We do have a number of other items to discuss. So we're going to be back talking about flagged items. If administration would be able to get us some additional information on the project details.
Thank you.
There, I think that's reasonable. Ken, when you're doing that, it's security and disaster recovery, and I particularly would like to know about the disaster recovery portion as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. What are the consequences of if we do have a security breach? Where do we sit in the legal world if we do not do this?
Mr. Anderson.
Well, there's significant legal issues, being that we do capture financial information, and that's one of the reasons that the payment card industry has those strict requirements. And if third-party information gets released that you periodically see, like health information, it doesn't open you up to liability for that information. You're given information for a purpose, and you're required to protect that information. And if you don't protect it, you're legally, you pay for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Rice.
We do.
Sorry, just a second. Actually, I'm going to cut off debate on this. If we've asked for additional
Okay.
information tomorrow and we're going to talk about it again tomorrow, then there's no need to talk about it here today. So we have made it through the corporate services. We've got about 10 minutes. I'd like to go to the scheduled time and try and take off as many as we can. What we do today, we won't have to do tomorrow, and so I wonder if maybe we could speak to some of the items in the protective services area. Councillor McLean, you'd asked about the Peter Station floor repair, $100,000 that is in the budget for 2012. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. This one of $100,000 just seems to be pretty high for me. They want to basically take the flooring out or put Q decking and concrete and some rebar, a couple beams, choice it up, telepost. I'm sure it wouldn't be 100 grand. I think 100 grand just seems unbelievable, and I'd rather make it unfunded. Even though it's a reserve, it's a reserve, but to look at better ways of saving the taxpayer money in the reserve, because it's still taxpayers' money, and it's a floor. I'm sure there's a way of doing that than just doing the concrete.
Okay,
So I want this something here. It seems like a lot of money.
So, Councillor McLean, we're gonna keep going on this until everybody around the council table is doing it in the same consistent manner. Needs to start with I move that, and dollar amount, and what you want the action to be.
Okay, I move that Pete Eager station floor repair be taken off the books as of right now.
Okay, be unfunded.
Unfunded.
2012.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that motion's in order. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor Wong.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. I'm going to speak against this motion. Administration has identified that the floor is starting to sag and that it needs to be repaired, and the facility depreciation reserve is the proper funding source for those type of repairs to maintain the state of the building.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Wong. Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Gibbon. I understand that it was in the 911 call center where a lot of the concerns are. So that would not be necessarily just opening the door and replacing the floor. There'd be a lot of electronic and equipment that would have to be moved in and out. So my question would be, what would we do in the meantime with the 911 call center?
Your Worship, basically the plan is, once the third fire hall is completed, there's an actual backup center for the 911 and dispatch built into that facility. That will be put online, tested, and then the staff will actually move over there for the time period that this project would take to, as you say, remove all the equipment, all the pods that are in there, and deal with the floor.
I'd like to vote in favor of this.
Okay, so the motion is to remove this from the budget.
Oh, against, sorry.
Okay,
Everything was
thanks.
going good there for that second.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Also, I'd like to know, I'll ask Bill, was there some quotes in about beaming it up a little bit more underneath and putting some telepost in, and because $100,000?
Your Worship, there has been work done already by facilities, and this is their estimate, basically, this to actually provide a fix for this. So whatever work they've done on a temporary basis, anticipating that they actually need to have a fix on this rather than a telepost underneath the existing floor.
Okay. Any further discussion or debate on the motion? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to remove this, the funding for this project. So a vote in favor of that would remove the project. A vote opposed would see the project remain in the budget. Start the vote. Thank you. And that motion is not successful. So Councillor Wong, we had the live burn training facility, $1 million in 2012 and $500,000 in 2013 that was unfunded, I believe. Councillor Wong?
Yes. I would like administration just to provide some background on the local government agency's $1 million funding first.
Mr. Walker?
Yeah.
So the plan on this one is that there's a couple of potentials here. One is that the airport already have a need for live fire burning to maintain the staff that they have doing air crash rescue to maintain their qualifications. They are quite excited about having this project on their site, so this would be actually on the airport lands. The other is that there are a number of other fire departments and industry in this area that also would see potential use of this facility. We are, what's been proposed is a project that would provide an approved facility so that we're able to not only train our staff, but would also be able to train others within the industry around us or with any other fire departments around us, or provide that site as a rental site for those that do have trainers already in place.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Sure, Councillor Rice.
We're talking about 500,000, like it references the $1 million here on our sheet, but that's, I'll say, irrelevant to our decision, is it not?
It depends on, well, at this point, nobody's taken any action to make a motion on this.
Okay.
Council could choose to
But-
say, we want to pay for it all.
Right.
Which actually, through the course of the discussions today, has happened in other areas. Smaller amounts, but it has happened in other areas. So until we have a motion, we don't know exactly what we're talking about. So Councillor Wong, you got some information. Was there anything that you wanted to do coming out of that?
Yes, Mayor Given, I'd like to move that we fund $500,000 in 2013. And in speaking to that motion, our Director of Protective Services has already indicated to us that occupational health and safety training for our fire department is going to cost somewhere in the $200,000 range. So for $200,000 that we would be spending, if we were able to move that into the $500,000 that we need to build this facility, it leverages some money for us, and then we have a facility that we can use to continually train our firefighters, which is this live burning training facility is the #1 activity that we want our firefighters to be trained in. In addition to that, it does allow Grand Prairie to become a center for firefighter training as well, because anyone in the region or anyone in the province can come to Grand Prairie and get their training at a live burn facility where it's a controlled environment, and well, it just sets us up as a leader in that industry, and I believe that our firefighters are already leaders. In terms of their training level, this takes them to that next level, and it does offer us the ability to save money down the road when they have, like, it only takes 2.5 of these required trainings for us to earn this $500,000 back.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wong. So that motion is in order, and we'll go for discussion debate. Councillor Rice?
So that's not quite accurate, I don't believe, Councillor Wong. As you build the facility, and yes, there would be some payback, but it'll reverberate, and obviously the operational budget. So you got to add your capital plus your operational to take off the 200,000 before you start recovery. It's not a simple 500,000 divided by 200,000 equal. I think your recovery would be substantially longer, if at all, because who knows what the operating costs would be.
Okay, Councillor Rice, thank you. Councillor Radburn?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will not be supporting this motion. As with everything, we need a business plan before we make decisions on funding. And that hasn't happened yet. I think that may come in the future, and then we can make an informed decision with respect to this particular training facility. And I also believe our firefighters are among the best trained in the world, maybe. So this would certainly add to it, but I think we need the due diligence of the business case before we proceed with this project, so I'm not in favor of funding it at this time.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Rice? Sorry, Councillor Rice, you.
I'm surprised when we assume, and we must have based that assumption on something, that our neighbors were going to give $1 million. Was there never a business plan or discussion at Protective Services?
No.
Oh, okay. All right then.
Okay, Councillor Wong?
I was wondering if Bill Walker could provide a little more background on just the operational costs of a facility like this.
Mr. Walker?
Well, the operational costs certainly include some fuels and staffing to a standard, which basically is required under the NFPA standard. There is an expectation that this be done under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, but it's an undefined expectation at this point because the processes are somewhat new. So I believe that what you're seeing is the fire department's best foot forward, trying to make sure that we're not putting ourselves at risk over the next 3 years. Certainly, I don't disagree with Alderman Radburn that we need to create a business plan and move it forward that way as well. So,
Thanks very much, Mr. Walker. Okay, so any further discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor Wong had a motion to add $500,000 in 2013. Am I correct, Councillor Wong?
That's correct.
Okay, we'll call for the vote. A vote in favor would add this. A vote opposed would leave it as unfunded in the budget. Thank you. And that motion does not carry. Okay, we're at about 4 o'clock. We'll end there. We will take a second, though, to ask administration. I can see the ladies in the back saying, uh-oh, we know it's coming. And Mr. Anderson, if you've been keeping a running total, what's the score looking like? Keeping in mind that this is in the midst of the discussions, we know that we started out at 2013 being 3.65%, sorry, excuse me, 2012 being 3.65%, 2013 being 4.35%, and 2014 being 3.6%. Do we have some estimation of where those numbers would stand given the changes that council has done through the first part of the flagged items? Mr. Anderson.
Well, the only item that would change is the borrowing for the leisure center. The rest of it would come out of the amounts that I mentioned at the beginning. So there will be an impact due to the borrowing. And it's probably 1/3 to 1/2% in 2014.
Okay, thanks very much. So any further discussion? Anything else on the budget? We will start tomorrow morning at 9. Councillor Rice will talk about that offline. Yep, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. It's just one thing, Ken, when you first started about our debt, the city debt, and about the airport of $16 million, which I'd never heard of before at all. It has been brought forward to council, so I don't think it's been approved. So I'm wondering about that $16 million debt.
Mr. Anderson?
Well, you are correct. It hasn't been approved by council yet. It was mentioned to me by the Airport Commission, so I built it into the plan. What will happen will be that they will come forward and ask for a request, and then there will be a borrowing bylaw. And council will have to approve the borrowing bylaw ultimately before that happens.
Could we have a chart as well if we don't borrow that, and what it would look like for the debt going down if it happened, went the other way?
Sure.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, Councillor Radburn, did you want to, from the Airport Commission side, do you have any additional information there?
Just that because we're asking to borrow through the commission is asking to borrow through the city, then that will come in September, which is earlier than other years, so that can follow due process through the city.
It's not something
Okay.
unusual.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn.
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. So then, from that point, then we'll call today's discussion completed. We'll come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we'll start where we left off on our list of referral items and flagged items. And thanks very much, everybody, for your hard work today. We'll see you again tomorrow.